power on.
The following is a presentation of the Sovryn Technica podcast feed.
Ooh, the Golden Stallion, the man of tomorrow, Sabzu, the rated R radio star, here for another Sovryn Tech X, which we call STX, which kind of sounds like sex, SEX, but it's not exactly. But I gotta tell you, when I have Mrs. Sovryn on, boy, does it almost feel like it.
It sure does.
Yeah, for her as well. I don't know what that says about my bedroom prowess, but regardless,
your performance is outstanding.
Is outstanding. You heard it here. All right, I don't have to say it. No.
Turn it up to 11.
Yeah. Woo. All right. So, sometimes. We, first off, welcome to the show, Ellen, of course.
Thanks for having me on again.
Yeah, this has been a good time. Like, we've been doing this every once in a while, where it's you and me, and we just toss out whatever we've got, and the interesting thing, and I am going to commit what in the old radio days would be called career suicide. I am actually turning over pretty much the entire content of the show to the guest.
What?
I know. So these are all stories picked by you.
Wow, you must trust me immensely.
Well, that's the thing, is that it's not career suicide by any stretch of the imagination, because you, dare I say,
I'm a seasoned veteran.
You are a seasoned veteran of radio as well. People might not remember this.
Well, it wasn't very memorable at the time. And
I thought
I
it
understand.
was memorable.
Oh, well, you did. You were my only fan.
I was listening every Friday. It was Fridays, right?
It was Friday nights on LRN.FM.
Yes. You did a nationally syndicated radio show. I mean, for how long did you do that for? Do you remember?
It was probably close to a year, I want to say.
About a year. Yeah. Yeah, because
around that time I recorded plenty of other podcasts in the same studio that were on LRN.FM, but it was not specifically Friday Night Free Talk Live.
Right. Yeah. So, and I did Free Talk Live, I want to say for close to 3 years, but I had the Sunday night duties.
Yeah.
And whenever it was kind of fun, because whenever a certain host wasn't around, we'd call it the anarchist edition of Free Talk Live. And, well, you're certainly getting a couple of wild and crazy anarchists here tonight.
Yeah, even in the fringe realm of anarchy, we are on the fringes.
Yeah, no, we're an anarchist. I mean, like we are extreme.
I think you would call it egoist anarchist, maybe.
Oh yeah. I mean, it all kind of falls under. We could toss around a ton of terms, but it all kind of falls under an individualist anarchist. But then there's the individualist anarchists that take it all the way to the logical conclusion, and that's where you get into egoism, and that's us. And
but there's still some empathy there. It's not like it's just every man for himself, Yeah,
no, there's still some empathy there. We're going to talk about that later.
Yeah,
We're actually going to talk about empathy. You got 3 hot stories, and I mean, they are hot.
They are sizzling hot.
Yes, they are. Yeah, and but I mean, just to bring it up, I mean, you did do more than radio, and at some point, I want to get your shows, and I know you've got the hard copies of your podcasts that you had done, especially solo, and I'd love to get those in the feed because those are timeless.
They are online. You can find them if you go to the link tree that's associated with Sovryn Technica. It's called Illumination Hour, and it's hosted on Anchor.fm.
Yeah.
Every episode is there.
Yeah. Well, I want them in I want people to get them almost force fed, in the Sovryn Technica podcast feed. So,
you know what I wish I had done when I was... So this is a decade ago. I didn't have the foresight at the time.
Sure.
I thought that they would be on the internet forever. But I used to do this podcast called ALP, which stood for Awesome, Loving, and Positive.
I remember.
Yeah, it could change meaning depending on the episode.
Yeah.
But I did not back up all of those episodes.
Oh, yeah.
I was able to manage to save a few because of the Wayback Time Machine.
Yep. The Wayback Machine.
Yeah, exactly. But not all of them were available, unfortunately, and that's really on me,
It's all right.
Yeah, still, a few of them exist, but I saved the Illumination Hour, which is the important one.
Yeah.
There were a couple others I did, but those don't really matter.
Well, this is like I think we forget, because computers and the internet, like there was this kind of slow boil of these things creeping in. Mm-hmm. We forget that we didn't used to keep, we couldn't keep everything.
No.
I mean, and even like pictures, like, we can take 100 fucking pictures now and post them all on Instagram, which we're there, folks. If you, just go to nwo.red, you'll find us. Anyway, but like that's a very new thing. The idea that you can like that you can store all this stuff into veritable perpetuity.
Oh yeah, the first camera I ever owned as a teenager, I could take 13 pictures with it.
Yeah, right.
And I had to continuously go back and delete the ones that I didn't want to take new pictures.
Right.
Because the memory cards were so small.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I even think of like, TV shows. Famously, there's episodes of classic Doctor Who that are just lost forever. They're gone.
Yeah.
Or radio shows. I know entire radio series. Mm-hmm. I know of them. I remember them. Other people know of them. They're gone. Like, I mean, they just, they're gone. They were mm-hmm. done and they were done. I mean, and how many of these fucking like morning shows that every local radio station did for decades, those are all gone. Or even think of video games like, there's a bunch of classics like Icewind Dale 2, where all the code, the original gaming code, is gone, or Panzer Dragoon Saga, like the code's just gone. So this idea of us saving every fucking piece of data, like that is so new, but we're so used to it already that it feels weird, right? When we don't have it. Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, you're right. This idea of permanence is completely an illusion. Mm-hmm. But I do want to be the optimist in the room and just put out there, as far-fetched as this may sound, that somewhere out in the outer reaches of space, those radio waves are still drifting somewhere.
Oh, I do enjoy that. Yes. Yeah. That's part of the joy of getting behind. I mean, like if there's any value, especially in radio, getting behind like real terrestrial radio, mm-hmm. is, that's going out into, that's out in the stars.
It is.
And that's traveling. And one of my favorite, it's actually the last episode of the real Battlestar Galactica from 1978. It's an episode called Hand of God. And at the end of it, spoiler alerts, the show's only been around for 40, 50 years. They pick up the television signals of the Eagle landing on the moon, of Neil Armstrong and Buzz landing on the moon. And it's such a wild moment, to know it's like that, that these transmissions are just going out into space. It's a very poignant way of, I mean, for me with that show, it was poignant in the sense that not just because, it's the end, but because the show was ending, but then its whole point that this was being televised, meaning that it was being transmitted out into space, is that Battlestar Galactica will live on forever in the stars, which is as a television series, as a transmission, right. Just like the moon landing was.
Yeah, and in the show they had no way to know how far away they were from Earth.
Right.
Or how long ago that had happened, because right. Those radio waves travel at the speed of light, so they could have been, 50 light years away or 3,000 light years away.
Yeah.
But they were heading in the right direction.
Yeah. It's a beautiful thing, and it's a beautiful thing to consider that anything you create like that really could change the universe in some way. And that's powerful, powerful stuff. Speaking of, powerful stuff.
Echoing into infinity.
That might even be one of their songs. Let's talk about a recent concert we went to. Then we got to get into your three stories, and then we have we're going to talk about we got some metal to talk about here, and we're going to talk about more metal, really exciting shit that people are going to want to hang out for, to hear our review of a new album, and there's some special surprises in it. But anyway, we went and saw recently at the Palladium, which is a world famous concert venue in Worcester, Massachusetts.
Worcester.
Yeah, Worcestershire.
For those who are not natives.
Yeah, use that to kill zombies. Worcester sauce, Worcestershire sauce. No, that's used to kill zombies in Worcester, Massachusetts. Unreal. But we went and saw, and we've been to the Palladium a few times, seen some
Yep.
big acts like Queensryche, Camelot, and some
Yep.
others. I mean, great, phenomenal concerts. And for the second time, we have now seen DragonForce there.
Heck yes.
Yes. And though admittedly, the reason we were really going for this one, and you tell me if I'm overstating this, but the real reason we went this time was because of one of the opening acts. That being, and I dare say, I'd call him a co-headliner, that being Amaranthe.
Yeah. The only reason you would call them an opening act is because they weren't last in line.
Right.
Like, everybody that was there was phenomenal. It was really
Yes.
great. And I think it's not an overstatement to say that we went to see Amaranthe because we had seen DragonForce before.
Right.
And it's not like their shows aren't exciting, because they are. They're
Yes.
incredibly exciting.
Yeah.
But I love variety. I'm addicted to variety, and seeing these shows live, it's a special experience. So we saw 4 acts that night. It was probably the longest concert I've ever been to. The first act...
Yeah, outside of like a festival of some kind, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
So the first show was Edge of Paradise,
Yep.
which I had never listened to before until that night.
Kind of a younger band out of LA, female fronted.
Yeah. I thought it was really good. So
Yep.
their latest album, Hologram, I listened to since that show because it was that good. I was like, wow, this is great. It's metal, but it's got a dance beat. It's kind of poppy sounding. Really good. Though, like, if you don't like screeching female voices, I don't know if it'd really be your thing, but I liked it. I was dancing to it the whole time we were in the merch line.
Yeah. It's one of those bands where it's funny, right? So, I mean, I have this legendary, I like to think it's legendary, I have this legendary Plex collection of music.
It is legendary.
I mean,
compliment you on it all the time.
It's a masterpiece. Like, it's almost my life's work. And I mean, like, Rob and Freebeard handles like the video end of things. I don't do anything as far as video goes. Video for me is discs. Like, I buy physical discs.
Yep.
And that's nothing against, anyway.
Everybody knows how much you love physical media.
Yeah, I don't have to talk about that, but as much as I would love to have a massive CD collection, I mean, the simple fact is, it's impractical, because especially all the metal that has come out in my lifetime, you'd have to have a literal library, to house all that.
Yep.
So, and I have millions of songs on my NAS server, on my Plex server, and legendary. But that's the thing, is I have so much shit on there. Like, I could start listening to everything that's on there now, and in a conventional life, I'm sure I'd die before it all, before I got to the last song.
And somehow you still keep adding to it.
I don't stop.
You're addicted.
Yeah, it's madness. It really is. But it's my, like I said, I kind of feel like it's my life's work. But it's a rebellious act. I mean, I'm reminded of the episode of Crusade where this guy is like, he's trying this alien is trying to get away from this totalitarian regime taking over his world, and he claims to have like the most powerful weapon, and that's why his government's after him. And eventually, like, the alien guy kind of dies, and the crew of the Crusade, the Babylon 5 spinoff show, like, they finally are able to access what the weapon is, and it's all music and everything. And that's the thing, is it's music is so powerful and so rebellious that the government of this totalitarian government considers it, I mean, every government's totalitarian, we're anarchists, but anyway, it considers it to be this powerful weapon because it could set people's minds free in a very real way.
And their spirits. I feel like music has this emotional connection to people that nothing else has.
Completely. Totally. Yes. In fact, there's a great word in Farsi. It's Torah, and it literally means like the ecstasy that you feel from listening to music.
Yeah,
like
that's a perfect explanation of it.
Yeah, and it's a word, like, there's no English equivalent for that word. It's pretty powerful. But anyway, so I consider having all this music to be a very rebellious act. It's a bulwark against all kinds of things. So all kinds of tyranny. Anyway, okay. So
So you have Edge of Paradise on Flex?
Yeah, so that was the whole point that I was getting at, is that there's music like that I have that I had no idea. Like, you said, wait, do you have Edge of Paradise? I'm like, oh yeah, I've got all 3 albums.
Surprise!
I had no idea, but they're great. No, I agree. I went back and listened to them as well, and they're phenomenal. It was a really, really solid opening act. They were very theatrical. Like, I liked the outfits they had on. I liked everything that they had lasers going everywhere, like off of their outfits.
The laser suit. Yeah, that was impressive.
That was so cool. And I love it when bands get theatrical like that. It's part of the reason my favorite band is Kiss. But that was fun.
Yeah, and I've been complaining about how metal shows don't have lasers for such a long time. And then they brought the lasers.
Oh, there's tons of lasers that night.
Yep.
Holy shit. So, yeah, Edge of Paradise was cool. Then that was followed up by, and you got to be particular here, Nanowar. Yeah, Nanowar. And they had to change the names like a decade ago to Nanowar of Steel because Manowar, I guess, went and sued them. Now, Manowar is one of my top 3 bands. Like, I love Manowar. I can't believe they did this. No, I can believe it, but whatever. Nanowar of Steel is kind of a parody version of Manowar in a very real way, though really they do a whole lot more than that. They're just wacky. It's a comedic, and they were doing this before like Glory Hammer and Ailstorm, and a lot of these other bands. They were kind of doing this comedic, almost Spinal Tap style metal.
Yeah, it's a little more than that. I mean, I will say up front they have incredible talent as a rock band, but they wear tutus and spread their butt cheeks and make it talk. So they just don't take themselves seriously at all. And the lead singer, I have to give him credit because he's, I think, the only lead singer of a metal band that I've witnessed that is flamingly gay. I mean, he has to be. He was such a good dancer.
Oh yeah,
there's no way that he wasn't.
Awesome.
You see some people dancing and you're like, I know that person's gay. They have to be.
Yeah. No, they were great. They were really great. And I mean, just like very fun songs, and they're from Italy, and so like they're
they had everybody jumping around and flapping their wings.
Yeah.
Waving their arms with the Call of Cthulhu.
Right. It's great. Just a fun band.
Very fun.
Yeah, and that's really it. Like, I don't know if there's anything that, like, was really, like, grooving, but it's a lot of fun.
I thought it was grooving.
Yeah. All right. Yeah.
Just give it a chance.
Yeah, give it a chance. Again, just know that you're getting into a funny. But that was great. Like, I'm okay with that. Like, I enjoy that kind of stuff. Like, I like Glory Hammer. I like these bands that get kind of comedic.
Yeah.
In this way. So that was a lot of fun. But then Amaranthe came out, so we had a total of 4 bands here. Amaranthe was the next one. And this is who, like you said, this is who we're here to see. I mean, yeah, we're going to watch DragonForce, all day long, but like Amaranthe was star of the show for us because they're out of Sweden, mostly, maybe some other countries as well, but basically they're out of Europe, and so it's rare that they come to America. In fact, I think it had been like 4 to 6 years. It had been a long time since they've been here. And I mean, I think they're a headlining act, but whatever. I'm just glad that they're here for sure. Just like when we went to see Beast in Black. Glad we got to see them. I mean, most of the in my opinion, most of the great music's getting made. Not all, but most is getting made in Europe right now. But
yeah, certainly they have more of a respect for metal in Europe than Americans do. Yeah.
It's one of those things. Like power metal never really hit it in North America, or in the United States anyway. Probably because it is such a positive message, and most people here just seem like they want to off themselves most of the time. So,
well, can you blame them? I mean, we live in a capitalist utopia.
We do, or dystopia. Yeah.
I mean, if you're a capitalist, it's
utopia. Yeah. Well, yeah.
No, it's still a dystopia, no matter who you are.
No, I know what you mean. You're saying by perspective.
Yeah.
Well, anyway.
Sorry, I'm thinking about my friend who's like, America's the greatest country in the world. Yeah. So some people that are really crazy about the way things are now.
Yeah, I know.
We're not those people.
And Elon Musk, it's like, he didn't even start Tesla. Give me a break.
Yeah, what did he actually invent besides PayPal?
Right. And even then, yeah.
Even then, he was just part of a team.
Right, and they were trying to push him out as fast as they could. But regardless, so...
Yeah, everybody else in the world kind of gets the message, like, we don't want to be like America. Not in that way, anyway.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there was a time, there was the 80s, there was the 90s, but that time's long gone.
Yeah, before bad decisions caught up with us.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, well, anyway, Amaranthe was in the States, and so we were, oh, wow. So we have, Captain is in the studio with us, our cat.
Our Captain Studio Cat.
Yeah, and we just got him a new captain's chair, this little moon bowl chair, and man, is he just asleep in it, and he is the cutest damn thing.
His little feet are dangling, you can see his beans. It's so cute.
All right, so that moment of cuteness is over. Back to the metal show.
Yeah, sorry, I was distracted.
So cute. No, I know, it's beautiful. Okay, so
Amaranthe came on stage. And
Amaranthe comes on.
Fucking great.
Yeah, okay. Well, let's talk about that. So I consider them to be one of the best bands in the past 10 years. They're 5-6 albums deep. They have a new album coming out next year. I love every single one of their albums. And I mean, they were great. They were really, really great.
I was really hoping they would play Maximize, and I don't think they did.
No, they played one song off of that album. They played That Song. That's the name of the song.
That Song. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's got a real boom boom clap kind of rhythm to it.
Right. They played that. I was surprised. I don't think they played a single song off of Helix, which is my favorite album by them.
They didn't play Helix?
I don't think they played anything off of Helix.
Interesting.
Yeah, okay. Which I thought was weird.
They did play Digital World.
Yeah, so that's off of Dynamite or yeah, the album previous. Now I can't think of it. But anyway, yeah, I mean they did a pretty good retrospective. They played off their first album, they played songs from Nexus, they played songs from Manifest, which was their previous last album. So yeah, there was a pretty good broad spectrum of music here, and I was pleased with every song that they chose. Yeah. I agree, Maximize is like so energetic. Mm-hmm. That they should have done that, but I was really surprised they didn't do anything off of Helix. They didn't do 365 or 365. Didn't do any of that. So I don't know what was going on there. Regardless, the thing is, and I don't know if it was the venue. It's kind of hard to believe it's the venue, just because we've seen so many great acts, so many complex performances there. And, DragonForce is on right after and sounded very rich, and like everything sounded really solid. I thought this, I don't know, the sound didn't slam me from Amaranthe.
Yeah, I commented on this while we were there.
Yeah.
I think that Amaranthe writes such technically complicated music that you can only truly appreciate it when you're listening in high fidelity, sound carriers, headphones of a certain quality, or even in your car possibly, but right. in a larger venue like that where it's so echoey, I feel like some of that complexity gets muddled. It starts to sound a bit muddy and smushed together. Not that it was bad, it just sounds much better when you're listening in high fidelity. Yeah I mean, these are albums I've listened to track for track over and over again, for a decade strong. Yeah. And so I know these songs, completely by heart. And I mean, I think you're right. Your analysis is on that's what was happening. And I don't know how to resolve that, but I don't know. I was just surprised. Their music's just so fast paced, Yeah. It's really hard, I imagine, for them to capture all of that detail. Yeah, it's just echoey like that. Right,
but I mean, the thing is then how does DragonForce do it, right? Because I mean, they're one of the most complex musician, or their music is so complex. I just don't. I don't know what the difference was there.
They have less synth, I think. It's
maybe
more guitars.
Maybe
less
that's
synth.
It. Maybe that's it. You could be right about that. Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, they're tremendous show people, I mean, just phenomenal musicians. I'll admit, I sort of expected a little bit more from Elise Ridd. Maybe she...
What do you mean by that? She was great. She performed.
She was. I guess I just always anticipated that she really, like, led the performance, you know? As where I feel like the male singers were more like they were taking charge. I don't know, it wasn't exactly what I expected. Because most of what I see of them, like, she's the one talking to the audience. She's the one that's, like, you know, really out there and everything. And I don't know. It's just different than what I've expected or what I've gleaned, you know, online over the years. But I'm not really taking anything away from it. It was a phenomenal performance. It was absolutely phenomenal. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It doesn't sound like a criticism to me.
No, it's not really a criticism. It's just a different anticipation.
You had expectations going into this of what it was going to be. Yeah,
based upon what I've seen over the years, you know, and it was, because I feel like a lot of people, you know, what separates Amaranthe from other bands of that ilk?
That they have 3 singers that are all kind of the lead singer in a way. You know, they split the singing responsibilities somewhat equally.
Yeah.
And they all have very different vocal qualities.
Yes, they do.
And somehow they put it together in this trinity of amazingness.
Yeah, the harmony is amazing that comes together, especially when one of the guys is screamo, but it all just melds so well.
Yeah. One of the guys has clean vocals, one sounds like the Cookie Monster.
Yeah.
And then there's, like, this very high-pitched female singer.
Yeah. So and out of all that, I feel like she's kind of the major differentiator. I just don't... Generally, I've seen her put more up front, and I was just kind of surprised that she wasn't. It's not a criticism. It doesn't matter, because they're all so ridiculously talented.
Yeah.
I mean, you could throw the guitar players up there doing all the talking, which many bands, that's how it works, you know? You think, like, Yes, when we saw Yes... You know, Steve Howe is the guy who's calling all the shots.
Yeah, he's held the band together for the last however many decades.
60 years.
Yeah.
Which, it's amazing Steve Howe is still killing it up there when we saw Yes recently. But anyway, so Amaranthe was amazing. I'm just... Something was off, and I kind of want to blame the venue, you know, but yeah.
I thought it was excellent, and I'm not going to say that there's anything wrong with the performance.
There you go. Okay, so I'm with you.
I'm just saying, I think the experience of seeing them live, you know, you have to trade off some things. Like, the quality of the sound wasn't as good. You got way more bass because the speakers were phenomenally huge.
Yeah.
But you know, the fidelity wasn't all there.
Yeah, and it wasn't where we were standing either, because we're right up there.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we're so close.
Not to mention, these people are touring. I mean, who knows what they're dealing with on the road?
Oh, no, yeah. I mean, I even could have chalked it up to that, because they just got done playing New York City,
exactly.
And that's, you know, there's a lot.
They're still humans.
Yes.
You know, they need to eat, sleep, do whatever. You know, living on the road, it's rough.
Yeah, well, that's
anyone.
Right. And that's the thing, is any band, especially if you're coming from Europe, if you know you're going to be playing in New York City, you're bringing every ounce of fucking energy you have to please the crowd in New York City. And as much as I can't stand it as someone born and raised in New York, I can't stand it. I get it. You know, fortunately, and this was in my opinion, one of the best parts of the Amaranthe show, was the people in Worcester couldn't stand New York either.
No, they were yelling, "Fuck New York!"
Yeah, there was a point where, and I get it, all bands do this, and I'm not going to say it's annoying, it kind of is, but whatever, where...
They play the crowds against each other.
Yeah, where they're like, oh, well, we were just in New York, and they were so loud, can you do better? You know, and they do all this crap. And it was so great, because the response by the Worcester crowd, and again, the Palladium, like I said, is historically and world-renowned. Okay, this is a serious venue. They're not going to put up with any shit, because they know what's been there. They know their history. And for them to just start saying, fuck New York, and it was so loud, was dynamite. Like that was so great. And I was more than happy to jump in on that cheer. That was awesome. And all the lead singer for Amaranthe could do was the guy could just go, it's like, well, that's one way to put it.
Yep.
You know. And I thought that was phenomenal. Any other thoughts on Amaranthe? Anything else you got?
No, nothing else to add.
So DragonForce, let's go right into this. I mean, I didn't get to walk away with the set list, which actually, if you look right behind you, you might be able to see it. There's right here, right next to this white book.
Oh boy!
There you go. That is the set list from last April when we saw them.
Did you actually grab this from the performance?
One of the stage guys handed it to me. when we were, and so yeah, I framed that fucker. You know.
Did they have the same set list?
Not this time.
They did play The Last Dragonborn. They made a big deal out of that. They had a whole Skyrim video playing in the background. It was so fucking great.
Yeah.
Because I am the Dovahkiin.
Yeah,
I understand the importance of these things.
Yeah, right. You are the Dovahkiin.
I am the Dovahkiin.
So this was, I mean, you can see some of this was like Cry Thunder. They're going to do Cry Thunder every time.
Every time, yeah.
So here's the deal with DragonForce, or one of the deals with DragonForce, right? Most people don't know the lyrics to their songs because everything's happening so fast.
So fast.
Yeah. So when you can get a chorus that can actually get the crowd in, you're going to play that song forever as a band like DragonForce. And Cry Thunder is one of those.
Yeah, because you that's the only part that you can actually sing along with.
Right.
Cry Thunder.
Right. Exactly. They did Valley of the Damned again. I mean,
they did My Heart Will Go On.
Well, that was in April.
No, they played it this time as well.
What? No.
Yeah.
No.
No?
No, I don't. I think.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I think they did. I think you're thinking you might be thinking Valley of the Damned, because like some of the lyrics sound like My Heart Will Go On.
I wouldn't confuse the two.
I don't think they did My Heart Will Go On. I'd have to look. I mean, the nice thing is you can go on like setlist.fm and you can find them.
Okay.
But
well,
anyway, regardless. Yeah, regardless. I mean, there's some like, what did they do? I thought Ashes of the Dawn. Was that the one that I'm thinking of?
They played a song from their newest album as well, which
they did two songs.
We had never heard before.
Well, I'd heard them.
Okay, well, I had never heard before.
Yeah. So they did Power of the Triforce, which is a Zelda song.
That was so much fun.
That was cool.
I liked that.
And they tossed around this chicken, which
stuffed chicken.
Yeah, which makes sense for Zelda fans.
It was a big stuffed chicken. It was fun. They had us try and toss it up to the balcony,
and it happened.
It made it up there.
They did that. Yeah, like Worcester did it. It was impressive.
They said they yeeted it up there.
Yeah. But they also did the other song, which is Doomsday Party, which is
what a weird song that
very
was.
Weird song.
Yeah.
Lyrically and the fact that it's disco. Like
well, they kind of tried to bring in a disco theme, but DragonForce is known for their power metal, like to the extreme.
Yeah.
And to slow it down to a disco beat, I just don't feel like they're made for that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like Beast in Black does great at that.
Yes.
I think they're perfect example of power metal with a disco beat.
Yes.
But DragonForce, they're just made for like Through the Fire and the Flames, you know?
Yeah.
That's their peak.
Yeah.
Going to disco is just trying to pull in elements that don't quite mesh with their strengths.
Right. Yeah, so okay, so overall, I mean, well, all right, let me say the good things. Like the show opened up, tons of lasers everywhere. Before the band even came out, they're literally playing the end theme to Tron Legacy.
Yeah.
Which is the soundtrack to Tron Legacy overall is just one of the greatest things ever done of anything. Doesn't matter what we're talking about. And but so that was cool. That was really great. They had the same like stage setup as when we saw them last year.
Yeah, the arcade machines that they were standing on top of and playing on.
Right, really cool. Okay, they had some YouTuber guy that I don't know who was there playing with them.
His name was Billy. I don't remember his last name.
Yeah, they'll do this where they have guests come on. Like I know that later on in this very tour, a couple days after we saw them, they had Lisa White Glutz from Arch Enemy playing with them or performing with them in Canada. And they had some other people there, and they've done this before. In fact, they've had people on from who we're going to talk about later when we review an album, that being Icarus Witch. They had the lead guitarist from Icarus Witch play with them for a couple shows, like last year when they were doing their farm simulator thing, I think it was. Yeah, nice. They had good old Quinn Lucas, who's a master guitarist, play with them. Which I'm not going to make comment on that, but how that experience went. But anyway, so it's kind of more of the same, okay? Now, I've also caught some other things, because we didn't stick around for the encores.
Oh, God, no. We were there for 4 hours.
Right,
and then
it's time to go.
The dynamite that is DragonForce played at the very end, and we're, like, up past our bedtime, an hour and a half away from home.
Right.
We're like, let's just leave before the crowds get out.
Yeah.
So we left before they did the encore.
Yeah.
Which, like, can you blame us?
Yeah, exactly. So...
Especially since we've seen DragonForce before, and we didn't need to stay to see them play Through the Fire and the Flames again.
Yeah, no. I never need... That song, to me, is like AC/DC's You Shook Me All Night Long. I never need to hear that song again in my life. Mm-hmm. Like, it's a great song.
Yeah.
But I never, ever need to hear it again in my life.
It's just so overplayed.
Yes. Now, and this gets into a thing. Okay, so, look, they were awesome. Like, they are such great performers. I'm not taking anything away from them on that. Their albums, I mean, have been a soundtrack of my life since, like, 2009. Mm-hmm. You know, I discovered these guys very early on. I know when you discovered them, you're like, holy shit. We've talked about this before. You and me, it was one of the very first things we connected over was, you said you heard DragonForce?
Yeah, and then you went and brought out of the closet the surprisingly... I had no idea what you were grabbing.
Right.
But you bring out the scarf that says DragonForce.
Oh, I'm so proud of this.
And my mind was blown.
Yeah. I'm like, no, like, I've never been able to share this with anybody. Here's a scarf for the band DragonForce, and it's from when Ultra Beatdown came out. And that was so cool.
Yeah,
so we got to connect.
Cool.
Right. So we connected over this band. It was one of the very early things you and I, when we were just friends, that we got to connect over. So the point I'm kind of getting at is, look, I love DragonForce. Major part of my life. And in ways, major part of yours as well. And getting to see them for the first time last year was revolutionary. Like, that was amazing.
It was. I mean, DragonForce was the first power metal band that I ever listened to, I think. Yeah.
So, here's the thing. Are you comfortable with me getting a little negative on this?
Be honest. Be brutal.
Okay. All right.
It's okay.
All right. I'm going to be. So here's the thing. You can just set it down if you want.
Oh, I'm just going to slide it back into its home.
Okay.
Right here. Okay,
all right.
Got it.
So here's the thing. When DragonForce first came out, and they did Valley of the Damned, and was Sonic Firestorm, whatever, the second album. Mm-hmm. Okay. Before they did Inhuman Rampage. Okay, this was a serious, kick-ass, taking the world by storm, blowing metal listeners' minds music. Amazing. Those two first albums, in fact, I think, next to, was it Reaching into Infinity, which is like their sixth album?
That was my favorite. When it came out, it became my favorite DragonForce album.
Right, I love that album too. So, but on a technical performance, just like overall level, I kind of feel like their first two albums are the best. I'm not meaning to sound like hipster about this in any way.
But at the time, people were like, how can Herman Lee even play that fast?
Yeah, they didn't believe it.
Yeah.
Now, we've seen them twice. We know they play that fast. Mm-hmm. Okay. But I sort of wish they didn't get big with Guitar Hero. Because...
now everybody knows that one song by them.
Well, there's that. But also, they dived really deep into the gaming aspect of it. Mm-hmm. And hey, folks, I've said this a billion times over the decade of Sovryn Tech that, I'm a gamer. I'm a gamer first, historian second, tech journalist third. Okay, like I've always said that. Okay, so if you think it's because I hate video games, you're dead wrong.
No, we play them every week.
All the time, yes. So, but I think they lost themselves when they went head first into being identified with gamers. And I think they got kind of ridiculous And
oh, that's sad.
I know, and I hate to say it because, I mean, at the same time, like, I think their best song overall, Curse of Darkness, is, you know, totally playing off of Castlevania. But I feel like they lost something. I feel like they kind of went too far. And they tried to not. Like, you have the album The Game, which is a kick-ass album, or The Power Within, where I feel like they sort of stepped away from that a bit. And I guess they feel like it didn't take. And so they just dive deeper into, no, we're going to relate to gamers. We're going to relate to gamers. We're going to relate to gamers. And they feel like that's their bread and butter. And I always get a little worried when bands do that, you know, where they sort of have to, like, okay, no, this is my niche, and I have to stick with that. And I feel like they've kind of lost some of their edge, you know? And
yeah, maybe. But do you think that they would have been able to survive and make money as a band if they hadn't done that?
Well, I mean, they probably wouldn't even have made a fourth album if Guitar Hero didn't happen for them. I can respect that. Like, I can understand that. Okay. But then, you know, and look, Last of the Dragonborn's a kick-ass song. Like, I get that. Okay.
Yeah, hell yeah, it is.
Yeah, right. And I mean, and you're making a song about Skyrim, like, great. Okay.
That game is legendary, and so many people have very strong feelings about it. You know, like, memories going back a decade or more sometimes.
Yeah. I kind of feel like there's an opposing there's an opposing force that's happening here. I'm going to explain a little bit more. Okay. Partly what tipped me off to it is when I heard Doomsday Party for the first time.
Yeah.
And I was like, you guys are copying Beast in Black. Like, that's what you're doing. You know, like, you're trying to evolve, but you're just trying to be ahead of the curve on something that is starting to pick up a lot of steam in Europe. In America, nobody has any fucking clue because they're idiots. But sorry, that was a little strong.
I told you to be brutal.
Yeah. But in Europe, you know, Beast in Black, Battle Beast, those kinds of bands are white hot. And rightfully so. Okay.
Yeah.
So I feel like they're trying to get on this trend before it gets too big internationally. Okay. But it doesn't work for them. Like, I want them to be DragonForce, you know, and they're not. Okay. Now, the other part of this that I think is a little odd, and I could be dead wrong. These guys could be best of friends. Okay. But we didn't see it on this tour, or maybe it was going to happen during the encore that we missed. But there's a point where the guys from Nanowar come out and they do this song that rips on Sabaton. Okay. Or that's like a parody of Sabaton. Now,
is it Sabaton, like, the band overall, or is it a specific song?
No. It's Sabaton, the band overall.
Okay.
And last time when we saw them in April, they ripped. Like, the lead singer said, oh, come on, it works for Sabaton. Like, he was, like, complaining. And I feel like there's some jealousy that effectively Sabaton can be Sabaton, album after album, doing no different, right? No evolution whatsoever.
All right. Well, Sabaton is drawing upon, for their creative material, history. You know, wars that happened historically speaking, like World War I, World War II, all these other little battles in between those. So that's what they specialize in, and there's a specific crowd that is drawn to that type of music.
Right, but, like, Sabaton is revered. Like, they do insane sales. Okay, sales that probably DragonForce isn't getting. If I were, like, I'm just guessing that people, and also Sabaton has inadvertently brought in, like, the Call of Duty crowd, you know, and a lot of the gaming crowd, because it's all about war. You know, the music's all about war.
But they're almost historians in a way.
Oh yeah,
like, they're musicians, but they're also, you know, telling these epic tales of battles that happen. Yeah, and
they've leaned into that, because they even, like, make documentaries now, like mini documentaries. And look, I love Sabaton. I mean, they're for, like,
we've seen them live too.
Oh, and they were fucking amazing. You know,
so good.
Holy shit! What a great show that was.
Yeah. We saw them with Hammerfall.
Yes, was that at the Palladium? But I think we were in the balcony.
We were in the balcony when we saw
that. But that was also at the Palladium.
If it was, I know it's in Massachusetts.
I'm pretty sure that was also at the Palladium, and that I'll have to look. But anyway, regardless, but that was the one time where we were actually in the balcony, because normally we're on the floor. Okay, regardless, here's the thing. I get the sense that DragonForce And maybe this will cause some heat in the metal community, and I'll have to start doing a metal show again or something. But anyway, I get the sense that DragonForce is jealous of Sabaton's success. Like, I think it's kind of weak to rip on a band multiple times.
Maybe. I mean, I feel like DragonForce has nothing to be jealous of. I mean, they've got the most revered guitar player, I think, in the extreme power metal community.
Oh yeah, Herman Lee's a legend.
Yeah. How can they be jealous? I mean, I just feel like it wouldn't make any sense because they have their own strengths, and if they would just focus on that, you know, they could really excel. But then trying to reach into this disco realm, like, it's just not working for them. And maybe that's what you're sensing, is that they're just, like, you know, desperately trying to find new avenues to pull in listeners.
Oh, I think that...
But they don't need to. They really don't need to.
But I think for some reason they feel they do. That's why they brought in this YouTube guy. You know,
maybe in America their audience isn't very big.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe that's what it is. It's just America.
Yeah, I felt like they... There was some position of weakness on that stage that I noticed this time, and in combination with what we saw last year, it's like, really, you're going to rip on Sabaton multiple times like that? Now you're getting weird.
All right, but that might have been Nanowar of Steel's idea.
I don't know. But that's disappointing too. Is that, like, okay, you've got one of the best female vocalists in the world today in Elise Rid, and you don't bring her on for a fucking encore? You know, like, I thought that was strange. Like, you bring in Nanowar of Steel instead of, you've got Amaranthe, you know, there, and you're not doing, I mean, like, holy hell, when we went to Dream Sonic and we saw, like, I'm getting goosebumps just saying the idea that Dream Theater and Devin Townsend are on the stage at the same goddamn time, and then Animals as leaders came out and saying, I mean, like, why wouldn't you do this with Amaranthe, DragonForce?
Right, like,
holy
bring
shit.
together all of the bands that are on tour together. That would have been beautiful. Because when we went to Dream Sonic, like, Devin Townsend was singing Dream Theater lyrics to a Dream Theater song.
Oh.
And he was doing so beautiful. It was incredible.
Oh, I get chills.
A memorable experience. And like, yeah, Animals as Leaders was on stage. They were playing too, along with Dream Theater.
Yeah.
I kind of thought that, like, maybe they would try to do, you know, bring the family together with this tour as well.
Right.
But it sounds like maybe there just wasn't enough room on stage.
I can't believe it. That's just strange.
Maybe the creative visions didn't align. I don't know.
But then go to Canada and, like, bring out absolutely bring out, you know, Elise White Glutz. I mean, she's, you know, a legend in her own right, you know, with Arch Enemy. But again, you don't bring out Elise Rid. Like, I just think that's crazy town. Especially if you're in the United States and supposedly everything is like the Force is female, you know, and all this shit. Like, okay, so if you want to attract, you know, if you want to appease the American crowd that is, you know, whatever, like, okay, bring out a female singer. You know what I mean? It's just there's something wrong there. I feel like there's something very, like, DragonForce has some kind of self-esteem issue, and they don't need to. Maybe they're a little insecure. Yeah,
you know, but I would say that it would be crazy for them to not feel that at least a little bit. Like, everybody should feel that all the time, at least a little. You know, like, you can't always rely on your past successes to carry you forward. You have to continue evolving, like you said, you know, in order
unless
to
you're
continue
Sabaton.
growing.
Yeah.
Well, Sabaton has quite a lot that they can...
I mean, critics do rip on them for not evolving.
Yeah.
I don't care. Like, no, just keep doing what you're doing, man. That's fine.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you keep making new material is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And as long as it's good. But this new material that they're making, they must know that it's not that good.
Supposedly, yeah. Well, and here's another thing, too, because this is the problem. So you kind of rip on Sabaton, but then, as I understand it, they perform a Taylor Swift song during the encore.
Ugh.
And there's a good bet that on their album, they have, what is it, Warp Speed Heroes or something they called it, that's coming out in March, or February or March. I'm going to guess they're going to do a Taylor Swift cover on there. That gets into a whole other world of weirdness.
All right, that just says to me, like, they really want to reach the American audience.
Yeah, but it's not just them too with that. There's something weird going on there because, like, I even caught a video of David Draymond talking about like Taylor Swift at a concert, and he's talking to a fan up front, and somebody, rightfully so, at a metal show yells out from the back, "Taylor Swift sucks," and of course they're right.
Yeah.
You know, like she does, and David Draymond says, "Shut up, she's awesome," you know, and all this, and I'm like, what? Like, where is this coming from?
So I have to interject here and say I did hear recently, just a couple people were talking and I overheard them, and there's one person in the conversation that's like, what has Taylor Swift even done for music? You know,
yeah, right.
She's just like, you know, another pop star, and
Yep.
And my personal feeling on this is she never deserved to become famous. Like, she's not.
I agree.
She's not talented enough to become as famous as she has become.
Yep.
But somehow she just forced her way up that ladder through money or whatever other cajoling means. But the other person in the conversation responded, well, she did do this thing where there's some drama in the past where there was a record company that owned the originals of her
and she did
music.
Taylor's version. Yeah, that was courageous. That was bold. Yeah.
So I think there's some sort of IP law that she is trying to redefine for musicians, which, like, if that allows them to have more, like, freedom and possession over their own creative product, great. You know, I don't believe in IP personally. I think that anybody should be able to, like, copy anything at any time and not be punished for it.
Right.
And the fact that, like, a musician has recorded something and like a studio owns that and they can't even reproduce it on their own, like, that is literally, to me, insane.
Yeah.
So if she's doing something to combat that, that's great. You know, I don't know the specifics around that, so I'm not going to speak too much more on that.
That makes some sense. That, okay, musicians revere Taylor Swift because she, you know, like, basically when the record company said, no, we own your music, she's like, well, fuck you, I'm going to go and, like, re-record all of my albums and re-release them. I mean, I'll give her credit for that. Like, bold move. Nice job, you know.
Sure. And maybe that's what David Draymond was saying. Maybe.
But then, you know, at the same time, then come out and just say, yeah, intellectual property is bullshit, you know, and like that'd be nice, but that's not going to happen, I know. Anyway, I just that I understand a band wanting to stay relevant.
Yeah.
I just think there's ways to go about that, and then there's ways that really, like, spit on your core audience a bit or make you look soft, and I'm not there. You know, it's one thing to cover Celine Dion with My Heart Will Go On.
Yeah, see, okay? that's respectful, you know.
Yeah, and you're covering somebody who has, like, more talent in their pinky toe than Taylor Swift has in her entire being. That being Celine Dion.
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay. Go ahead.
I just think there's also this element of, like, never speak badly about other people unless you want it to come back on you. And I think that, you know, them even saying something that has that negative energy around it of, like, well, Sabaton can get away with it. You know, you can just sense the negativity in that statement. Like,
yeah.
I feel like that is inviting trouble.
Yeah. I mean, I'm all for judging people and insulting people. Like, I'm a big supporter of doing that, but
maybe in a safe environment.
Yeah, the thing is, like, you're DragonForce, you've won. Yeah. You've already won. You don't have to do that anymore, you know? Yeah, I have to insult people because there's people that got to get taken down, you know? But
there always will be.
Right.
I mean, there's still going to be, like, the Bill Gates of the world.
Right.
And the Elon Musks and Donald Trumps. And the list goes on and on.
Yeah.
Of people that just need to go away.
Yeah, but there's no need for DragonForce to do that. Like,
no. I mean, we all love DragonForce. We want them around.
Yeah.
You know? We want them to do their DragonForce thing.
Yeah, they've been to the top of the mountain. Okay? I haven't been to the top of the mountain. Not in my industry. So, like, that's very different. I just don't get it. The same with Disturbed. Like, Disturbed, you don't have to do that. You don't have to defend Taylor Swift. You don't have to defend shit. You know, you've almost broken, like, Metallica's record for having 5 albums all debut at number 1 on Billboard. Like, you were that close to
so good.
They were, yeah, I mean, they're
so
amazing.
good.
It was so close. Not going to get into his politics, but you know, they have no need to do that. Anyway, whatever. Okay.
All right, but he is a fellow Jew.
He is. I know. He's tribe. Yeah, he's just got it wrong. But that's we won't get into that war here. I'll do that in other venues, other areas. So.
Well, we've been recording for almost an hour, and we still haven't gotten into our main stories.
We haven't gotten to a single story. We need to do that. But bottom line, okay, all that said about DragonForce, it was an amazing night. It was an amazing show. Like, it was really, truly great.
It truly, truly was.
Yeah, yeah.
We had so much fun. We were dancing the whole night.
Yes.
We went home and showered and crashed.
Yes.
It was that crazy of a show.
Yeah, but that was awesome. I mean, and don't let me dissuade you folks. If you've never seen DragonForce live, this is something you have to do, because there's nothing else like it.
Just be prepared for the amount of sheer energy that you get blasted with.
Yeah, that's the thing. You're done. You know, because at the same time, like, I would say, okay, say DragonForce is on the weaker side now, and Amaranthe is actually the bigger band, say, in the popular consciousness. I'm not saying that's true. It's certainly not in America, unfortunately. It should be. But, or I'm not even saying it should be. I'm just saying I wouldn't be surprised if that were the case, because, you know, just what Amaranthe is. Nobody can follow up DragonForce. You can't. Like,
no.
Like,
I can't imagine what band has more energy.
Yeah, there's no faces left to melt. Like, it's over. Okay? You know,
they've been eviscerated.
Yeah, they're done. All right, like, nobody except for maybe Victorious. Victorious might be able to follow up DragonForce, but they're the only band on the planet that could do that. Even then, I don't know. But the point stands. Nobody can follow up DragonForce. Like, you are just wasted. No alcohol required. After a DragonForce show, you're done. It's over. Would you agree?
Yeah. Yep. You just walk out and you're like, "That's my life.
Yeah.
My life is over.
Yeah.
I've seen the best."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right. Like, I guess you have climbed the mountain with them. So, so do so. Even though all my criticisms, do so. It is totally worth it. It is a life-changing experience.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, all right. You had 3 amazing stories. I want to get into all of them. We did 2 hours plus last time. If we've got to do that again, we're going to do it.
Let's do it again.
Let's do it again. Let's break out these stories. So the first one you had was from Psychology Today, which, believe it or not, folks, on Sovryn Technica content, I've pulled out Psych Today stories a million times.
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah, same. When I was still writing and authoring on the newsletter,
right,
Psychology Today was often quoted. Yeah,
and I mean, to their credit, they will publish big names. Or, I mean, not big names, I should say controversial names. People in all different kinds of communities that I have always appreciated that they gave them a voice. Dr. Peter Gray, for one, is one of my favorites, who, does a lot of work with studying, anthropological work with studying modern tribes and everything, as well as anthropological work, and that'd be sociological today, I guess. But anyway, regardless, Psychology Today is a phenomenal outlet, in my opinion.
Yeah, sometimes they do these long-form articles that are so in-depth and amazing, and they have all sorts of strange content, like you mentioned. One of my favorites was, there was an article where they were discussing near-death experiences.
Yes.
And I really appreciated that, because it is not often talked about. Yeah,
and they also had the balls to highlight, on reincarnation. Mm-hmm. Like the study out of the University of Virginia, which is important work. Kudos to them. All right, so this is a story. It's actually, is this an older story that got revised in 2016?
Yeah, it looks like it.
Yeah, that's great, because, that's another problem. We were talking earlier about the problem of permanence, or like how we expect everything to be permanent today. I think another problem we have due to the internet is that if a story is more than 2 weeks old, who cares? Like, oh, no, there must be an update now, because we expect new information all the time now, because the speed at which things get put out there, published, whatever, because of the internet. No, there's actually science from, honestly, 60 years ago that is still completely valid and up to date today. So, a story being from 2011, revised in 2016, nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, some of these contents are evergreen.
Yeah, totally.
They never die. They never
More
go
stuff
old.
should be evergreen. So I'm with you.
Agreed.
Yeah. So what? Let's see. Well, this is titled "Sex: Intelligent Intercourse." Give it to me.
Why Smarties have less sex. So I'm just gonna skip the first.
Yeah, get to the high notes on me.
Okay. So I like the name here. Why Smarties have less sex.
Smarties.
Yeah. So this is. Imagine you're watching Idiocracy. It's kind of like the opening to that movie where the highly intelligent college educated people are like, well, let's wait until we're 30, now let's freeze our eggs, and then there's like the trailer trash people on the other side of the the spectrum that are having like 7 children by the time they're in their mid-20s, So yeah, just imagine that, and I'll go on reading the story.
Go for it.
Intelligence is negatively associated with sex frequency, says Rosemary Hopcroft, a sociologist at the University of North Carolina at Charlotte. It's a bit dismaying. And people with higher education levels generally have lower numbers of sexual partners. So, do you want to just comment on that for a moment?
Sure.
Intelligence is negatively associated with sex frequency, and people with higher education levels have fewer partners. So what are your initial thoughts on that?
That's the kingdom upside down. I don't like my first blush. So yeah, here's a quote from Rosemary Hopcroft. Like you said, intelligence is negatively associated with sex frequency, meaning that, like you said with the Idiocracy example, that people who are more intelligent have less sex.
Yeah, that's what frequency means,
Right. Right. Yeah. So just breaking it down for the people that are having all the sex. No.
Yeah, just in case you didn't catch it the first 3 times that we said it. So I think that this it's probably true for most people.
Okay.
It's kind of mind-boggling to me that this is a thing, but I understand where they're coming from, that is the perception that most people have, probably the experience that a lot of well-educated people have, because they're thinking about the consequences of what's going to happen if I get into this relationship. They're thinking long-term, whereas there's a lot of people in the world, less intelligent, less educated maybe, that don't think about those consequences, that are just like all in, only thinking about the moment.
Yeah.
And maybe that's really it. But, I mean, as far as personal experience, I beg to differ.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's... Okay. Well, let's break some things down. Okay.
Okay.
Because, in fact, I think I see here right in the article, it does say, like, why is this? And it says, and a different commentator, and Johnny Chandra, who is with the CDC, scientist with the CDC, says it's hard to pick apart. Okay, now that, I think, is spot on. This is hard to pick apart.
But they found a higher concentration of virgins at the top of the intelligence scale.
Yeah, okay. But this is wildly complex. All right. So here's first off, let's get this out of the way. You are a beautiful anomaly. Because now I'm not saying that you're necessarily, I mean, you are unique. You're incredibly unique in so many ways.
We're all unique.
We're all unique, yes. But you are unique uniquely.
I am uniquely unique.
Yes. But most, I think this is fair to say, I don't have stats for this, but most ridiculously hot supermodel level women are not brain surgeons. Okay, you're not a brain surgeon either, but you get my point.
I'm not a brain surgeon. I'm not a rocket scientist.
Right. I use those as colloquialisms, though.
I did go to college for 6 years.
Yes, you are an engineer. You could, I think, easily or handily, maybe not easily, but handily get your master's if you wanted to take the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course you could. Right?
I just don't have the time.
No, right, exactly. But that's the only reason.
No,
So-
I still want to do that. I feel
Yeah.
very passionate about it.
Yeah. So, and I know you do it and it's done. Okay. But the fact is, and this isn't a negative against women, I am just saying that, I mean, you literally are a supermodel. Like, you are so insanely hot. Okay. In fact, I can't even tell you how many people, when I post about you, say on Instagram, how many messages or comments that I get, either direct messages or comments, like, holy shit, post her picture. Like, I mean.
So I personally have rejected accepting my beauty for
Yeah, sure.
a very long time.
Sure.
Or at least when I was younger, I almost resented it
Sure.
because people do treat you differently when they view you that way.
Yes.
And I wanted to be seen for more than my physical looks. I wanted
Right.
people to recognize, no, I am intelligent, I am
Yes.
passionate, I have all of these other qualities, but all that people say is my face,
Yeah, right.
or my tits,
Yep, which are huge. And so,
So, and people have told me this my entire life, like, you're gonna blow the minds of everyone that you work with. You're a
Yes.
scientist and you're so hot.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I don't know how to feel about this. People
Right.
are telling me that it's hard to live with, being that person. But
Yeah.
I hear what you're saying. I've been told it plenty of times. And I'm not saying that I personally agree. I'm just saying this is what I've been told. And you, being my husband, I would expect you to say that.
yeah, okay. But, sure.
But I'm just saying it's been reinforced. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No. I mean, there's, okay, look, like, beauty's in the eye of the beholder, sure, blah, 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 blah. Okay, but there are conventional, Hollywood reinforced standards of beauty. And you blow all of them out of the water. Okay, so yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like when I told you, whenever you've gone for like a job interview, it's like, yeah, you're amazing on paper. Just get them on a Zoom call. They're hiring you in a heartbeat, and I know why. Okay,
And somehow I always get the job that I want.
well, that's what I'm saying. Okay, and so like I know every morning, after I make you breakfast, get everything ready, blah blah blah. I know when you go to work, every fucking guy in the place, and probably a lot of the gals too, are going to stare at you, and they're going to drool.
And you're fine with that.
Oh, I'm totally fine with that.
Which is amazing.
Yeah, no. It's
You're
like,
so incredible.
yeah, it's like, it's all right. You're drooling. That's just like you slow clapping for how hot my wife is, and thank you. So
You've won.
Yeah, it's fine. Okay. Like I said, folks, when I got to the top of the mountain, that was just in my industry. But in life, no, I've gotten to the top of the mountain. But
Well, I've gotten to the top of the mountain too.
well, thank you. Anyway,
But that's what I'm saying is that I get to climb the mountain quite often.
it's a big mountain. So, okay, all right. So. We are talking about sex here, folks. This isn't that crazy.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I want to use a bunch of strange sex analogies that I've heard in these Asia Saga books. So I'm ready to drop them.
All right. Well, anyway, so here's the thing. Like I was bringing this full circle, or getting back to it. Okay, you are an anomaly. So yes, you have had a ton of sex.
I have.
Yeah,
I have.
and rightfully so. Okay.
It felt great.
Yeah, and not just with
Most of the time.
Yeah, right. So you have had a ton of sex, and a part of that, I mean, we could get into the conventional, and again, I'm speaking conventionally, okay, not what's right and wrong, not what's moral, not what's yada yada, okay, speaking conventionally. You've been able to do that. While it could be argued that, it's always easy for any woman to have plenty of sex, that's not always true.
Yeah, and let's define plenty of sex. So it doesn't say it in this article, but there are other Psychology Today articles about sex that talk about this. So a lot of sex is considered to be 3 or more times a week.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That's low. But okay.
For us, it's low because we have a lot of sex. A lot.
Yeah.
And it's wonderful, and I'm so happy about it, and I will never complain.
And we've been together for what, 5 years now?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So
and
we're
going
married,
strong.
and no, the sex life has not slowed down at all.
We're still so excited about each other.
Yeah, because someone told me that, oh no, after a couple of years sex slows down, sex is this, and I'm like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Like,
Yeah, I mean, there are certain weeks where, like, okay, we only had sex once this week, but that's usually because something's happening.
It's not lack of desire.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, no.
It's something, like, maybe I'm on my period, or, like, one of us is sick,
Yeah, or we're having to do something for somebody or whatever,
yeah.
like, but it's certainly not because, like, yeah, okay.
But usually, for us, it's, like, 4 or 5 times a week.
Yeah, even that's slightly lower end, I think. For us, that's being a little modest. But yeah, that's okay.
Well, there's some nights where, like, it's just too late and we're tired.
Yeah, that does happen.
But that's, like, once a week, maybe twice a week.
Yeah, and it's not like we're too tired to have sex. It's just like, no, we really need to get enough sleep.
Exactly.
And we know how much sleep we need. It's not, yeah. So it's always just running out of time, not running out of desire. Okay. So anyway, all right, so you've had a ton of sex. But you're hot, right? So, I mean, we're speaking conventionally here, okay?
And you're saying that
and
I'm
you're
also
brilliant.
I'm highly educated.
Yeah, you're also highly intelligent, okay?
Thank you.
Yeah, and everybody recognizes that. You don't have to hear that from me. So,
and you also are highly intelligent.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll get to that. I mean, we're odd people out no matter what.
Yeah, I think what I'm saying is that we are a special case.
Yeah, but I'm. Okay, so yes, and thank you for saying that. First off, I'm really honored by that, and I hear that from a lot of people. That I'm a highly intelligent person. Okay.
Yeah, and this has been proven for you historically too.
Sure. Okay.
Well, I mean, consider the amount of stage time that you used to get doing, what was it, like trivia or...
Oh, yeah. When I was the king of the nerds, yeah.
The king of the nerds.
Yeah, no, I know. Like, so, okay. See, that's the thing, though. There's a debate of whether I'm intelligent or just because I have this ridiculous fucking memory that I can just remember everything, and that appears to be intelligence. Now, that's an interesting conversation to get into with this.
Yeah, what exactly is intelligence?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, that is an interesting thing to get into, and we'll get into that.
But I think memory is a huge part of that.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, information recall is a huge part of that. You're right. Okay. But I want to talk about this a bit. Okay, so yes, it could be argued that I'm intelligent, or very intelligent.
Yes.
And, I mean, what do I think of myself? Yes, I think I'm a fucking genius, and I've yelled out as much even on my shows, at times.
Well, I agree with you, sweetie.
Well, thank you. All right. But, we'll leave it to third-party validators, all right?
And as far as men go, I think you are highly attractive as well.
Okay, I'll debate you on that as with others, but...
Well, I think you have some things that you might be insecure about, but I have never seen any of those. Like, to me, you are just sexy and huge, monstrous, and perfect.
Thank you. I love you. And I know... Okay, so as far as that goes, like, I know that I give off a insane amount of masculine energy and testosterone.
Yeah, you've got a machismo.
Yeah, okay. Like, I know that I give that off, even though I have physically, there are flaws. Okay. And we don't need to, whatever. I'm not getting into those.
We don't need to go down that road, because everybody has flaws.
No, right.
Everybody does.
Okay. But my, so I understand where my, sexy factor kind of comes from, and which is part of probably why I've been able to have a ridiculous amount of sex, okay, in my life as well. And, I mean, the irony is, just taking a moment with myself, a lot of the sex that I've had was directly, what got me into the rooms, shall we say, to even have the sex, like, in whatever, and I mean the hotel rooms and whatever else, actually did come from what you brought up. Was my memory, was being the king of the nerds. It was like winning all those trivia contests and everything. That's what made me a big deal. And then I start, get to hang out with some like celebrities or whatever. But that's what got me into the hotel rooms. That's what got me like the gals initially. Because like in high school, no girls paid attention to me whatsoever. But then I go to these science fiction conventions and holy fuck, I'm the hot shit, and I'm not bragging. Like, please folks, I'm really not bragging. I'm just saying that, but what made me the hot shit was my intellect. Whether that's intelligence or whatever, it was that. Like, that's what got people, kind of going.
Yeah, and the interesting thing in this article too is they don't talk about frequency only. They also talk about the number of partners. And usually for highly intelligent people, that's a smaller number than for less educated people. Now, for me, that number is, I want to say it's less than 10.
Yeah.
For you, I think it's like, you can't even count.
Yeah, no.
How many it's been.
Yeah, no. And again, I'm not saying it's a boast. Like, and I've talked to people about this in the past, you know, like you really, you lose count after 100. Like, I mean, you just, like with the amount of people that I've had sex with, you know, like, I don't know. I can't count it. You're right. That's what matters. You're looking at me funny.
Yeah, it just, you know, makes me feel kind of gross when I think about it, but I know it was a long time ago.
It was a different time.
Yeah.
It was just a different time. Like that's the thing. So
yeah, and also I think it's probably easier for someone like you to have one night stands, whereas or to like buy prostitutes or something.
Well,
but,
I mean, I was traveling the world. I mean,
yeah.
it was it was kind of a byproduct of the situation, among other things. Anyway, it was a crazy life. So
yeah, but for someone like me, who has like, not only am I completely psychotic and I'm always overthinking things, I overthink everything. Literally everything, including like who I choose to be romantic with. And you know, it's hard for me to like not think about the consequences or to not have some sort of like weird attachment issue. At least in the past it was, you know?
Yeah.
Like, when I was younger and I was still dealing with a lot of these things. But since you and I have been together, you know,
Yeah.
it's kind of been settled, so it's not really something that I worry about anymore.
yeah, I mean, or go ahead.
I'm just saying, like, when I was younger, I had a very different mindset about sex.
Yeah.
And, you know, it was something where I wasn't looking to have sex with a lot of strangers.
Yeah. I mean, as far as like relationships I've had, you know, that's probably like, I mean, 10 might even be the high. I don't know. I mean, I can easily count those as far as like long-term relationships that I ever had.
Yeah.
Those are very few. So if that's but I mean, that's not exactly what they're saying, because they're talking about sexual partners.
Exactly.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah. So sexual partners, that number is wildly different. But as far as like, again, long-term relationships, that's actually very low. Anyway.
Yeah, the strange thing is, they also say in this article that
Sure.
bright teens are just as likely to postpone relatively innocuous activities like kissing. And it's hard to imagine that a 15-year-old wouldn't kiss a boy because they're worried about getting pregnant. So are these choices or questions of opportunity?
Yeah, okay. So, well, here's... Do you have a comment on that, or...
You go ahead first.
Okay. Because I think here is where we need to talk about what is intelligence. Okay. Well, we don't even... No, we don't have to go there yet. Okay, so... Why was I buried in books? Like, look, I've wanted to be with gals since I was as far back as I can remember, you know. I might not have been as bad as my older brother Wally, who like brought his first girl home when he was like 5. But yeah, I'm serious. You know, he was out there like collecting frogs and everything, and then one day he walks in, "Hi, Mom, this is Michelle." You know. Okay.
That's adorable.
Oh, it's a classic story in my family. But anyway, I wasn't too far off from that. You know, like I was interested in gals from an exceptionally young age. Okay. So, but why was I buried in the books? And it's because I wasn't attractive, at least at the time. You know, or I mean, again, I'm not going to say I even am now, but
I saw pictures. I think people just didn't see what was there to see.
Yeah, well,
because you were into nerdy shit, and that's not cool.
Yeah, but like I was into the nerdy shit because like, okay, so granted, my dad, when I was super young, my dad gave me the advice: become an expert in something that they're not. Mm-hmm. And
it'll make you endlessly fascinating.
Yes, and that was his idea. Was that would be my store of value, right? Like with these people or whatever. And so, I to some degree, I still do this to this day. I still do that to this day.
I love this father to son advice about how to get women.
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
So I never really had a father,
Yeah.
so hearing this is just fascinating.
Yeah, and to be fair, like, does my dad know what he's talking about? Well, my dad was a bit of a womanizer, and anyway.
So it worked for him.
It worked for him, but he's another one. My dad had
brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, this is a guy, like, look, is the Voyager 2 still out there flying?
Yes.
Okay, thank my dad.
I do. Every time I think about him, like, God damn it,
right,
he's so brilliant.
For being a part of something that is still, that has left the solar system. That's
him
amazing.
And Carl Sagan.
Him and Carl Sagan, and those two knew each other very well. But he had tons of sex. Carl Sagan probably got laid so goddamn much.
I know if I was alive at the time,
right,
I would have done it.
I would have grabbed the ankles for Carl Sagan. I mean, that's fine, like, that's okay. So
he's just one of those men that's got that much sex appeal.
yeah, he is really a case where his intellect is totally what makes him sexy.
Yeah, that put him to the level of, like, beyond human,
right? In
a way,
right. And then, let's talk. I mean, we mentioned, or you and I were talking about him earlier today, Isaac Asimov. I mean, now we know. I didn't know this growing up, but his nickname was 100 Hands Asimov. He was getting laid all the time. Like, he was all over the ladies. Harlan had to hold him off. Like, Harlan would literally walk behind or walk in front of Isaac Asimov, when they're going up the stairs to keep him from grabbing girls' asses. And so...
Which is just such a funny story.
I know. Like, it's crazy.
Because he's such a fucking nerd. Like,
oh, yeah, and he's not a stud, other than he's a big Jew, like me, I guess, but he's not a stud.
No, he's not very physically attractive,
no, right.
That's true. But he's one of the most prolific writers of all time, in both science fiction and true science fact.
Yes.
It's just amazing, like, all of the works that he has accomplished.
Yeah.
And the endless creativity of his mind.
Yeah.
It really shot him to the level of superhuman as well.
Right. So the funny thing is, we're kind of... And Harlan, okay, here's another guy. Let's just bring this up. One last example. Harlan, fucking genius, and I'm not even going to say the unspeakable things I'd do to somebody who would say otherwise about Harlan.
No, I agree.
And also, ironically, like, I mean, he considered himself sexy until he was like 50. Okay. But I mean, this is a guy who literally getting featured in Playboy, and all this stuff. I mean, Harlan... Super
rebellious.
Yeah, Harlan...
Just badass attitude.
Right. But super intelligent.
Yeah,
okay?
Yeah.
But he was getting laid all the time. I mean, it was nonstop. Which
is kind of, like, crazy to me because he was a small man.
Just a little Jewish guy.
Very small.
Yeah. So... like, I bring up all these examples. Now, granted, there's the celebritydom maybe that comes along with it. Mm-hmm. That could be a part of why they are the odd men out as far as getting laid a lot. Yeah. Because, again, this article is saying, oh, well, actually, if you're intelligent, you don't have as many sexual partners. It's where Harlan and Isaac alone, would probably match pretty well with a lot of heavy metal artists. Frankly. So
yeah, well, I think this study was probably focusing on the general populace, like college campuses.
Yeah. So, okay, well, back to my point. So we're bringing a lot of counterexamples here, but back to my point. Like, why was I into the books? Why was I reading so much? And it was honestly because girls didn't pay attention to me, and so, like, I was diving into the books because I had the time, because, and because, maybe I thought that it would impress them. Maybe I thought, whatever. I mean, this is teenage me thinking, or even pre-teenage. Yeah, so I guess the point I'm trying to make is that a lot of people that are really book smart, they're book smart because they're not out there fucking all the time like they want to be.
Maybe. I mean, so your story is very interesting. I just want to counterpoint it with mine.
Sure.
So I read a lot when I was younger. Including as a teenager,
mm-hmm.
Going through puberty years and all of that. I read a lot because I wanted to escape to other worlds that were better than the one I was living in.
Yeah.
And in doing so, I learned a lot. I was able to, like, spread my wings, so to speak, reading all sorts of things, not just like better worlds that I wanted to live in, but also like the dystopian, this is what we should learn from kind of side of things. And I think I picked up from that a certain mentality of being very cautious, and that is kind of what led me to always be questioning what decisions I was making romantically. And of course, there's just a million different factors that go into that. Like, some of my family was religious, and that kind of, the shame around sex rubbed off on me in that way.
Yeah.
And then there's also the fact that, like, I was very self-conscious, and I didn't have a lot of self-esteem. So even if guys were hitting on me, I wouldn't reciprocate because I'm shy. And, like, still to this day, I'm a little shy. But,
a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it takes a little bit for me to come out of my shell. But once I'm out, I'm, like, all out. You know?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's a bit overwhelming, I think, for some people.
Yeah. I love it. But continue.
I know you love it, and I can just shower it on you. And I do shower you.
You do shower. Yeah. Well, all right.
But anyway, so I just find it fascinating that we both have, like, very different reasons for why we were reading so much when we were younger, which maybe contributed to our intelligences.
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, I agree. So this is, again, this gets into ultimately a weird place, as in, how are they gauging, like, intelligence? Because IQ is horseshit. Okay? In fact,
it's so specific. It's like, can you solve this puzzle? Can you figure out this problem? It doesn't measure a lot of other metrics that would contribute to intelligence.
Yeah. Now, because a lot of people... Now, so you like the movie Idiocracy.
Yeah, we've watched it together.
Yeah, I like the movie Idiocracy. I love it. Like,
it's hilarious.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
Terry Crews is awesome.
Yes. So, a lot of people now critique that movie and actually consider it to be, either like racist, eugenicist, whatever else, and they make a lot of arguments against it. Some of those arguments, I think, are kind of valid. Like, they bring up that, okay, there's a bit of a eugenics argument in this, and that, well, the problem with the world is that smart people aren't having children, and all the dummies are, and so it's creating more dumb people. That's not how intelligence works, Like, I mean, this kind of genetic argument like that, that's not how intelligence works.
Yeah, not exactly. I mean, I think there is a genetic component to it, but it's certainly not the entire thing. I think it comes down to that nature-nurture argument of, like, half of it's nature, half of it's nurture.
Right.
And nurture actually plays a huge role, in, like, if the potential is there, is it going to be expressed? So, I hear what you're saying, that there's a eugenics argument there, and that definitely wouldn't play out in the real world. Like, there would still be some intelligence in the general populace.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess, so the Idiocracy thing is, like, there are some problems with it. I still think that the overall premise of Idiocracy, that the world is getting dumber, more so through advertising and a lot of other things. Yeah. It's not the eugenics aspect. It's not because smart people aren't having kids. It's not that. But a lot of the more corporatism arguments within it are all still completely valid. It's like, okay, fine, get rid of the problems with IQ that are one of your arguments against the movie. Get rid of your problems with eugenics. Okay, like, but still, again, the overall premise of the film is spot on. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, the idea that corporatism and advertisement are what making people dumber. Like, people believe what you tell them if you're a big enough company. Like, I forget what the company was in the movie, but, like, the Gatorade kind of... Was it Gatorade? I forget. Brondo, yeah. So it's got electrolytes.
It's what the plants crave.
If you just say that enough times, eventually... people are going to start believing that. Though there's still going to be people in the world that are like, I'm a gardener. That's not true.
Yeah, right.
And I'll show you why.
Right.
But still, you can convince a lot of people just by repeating things over and over again.
Yeah, I mean, this is the nature of cultural memes. Yep. Not memes like on Instagram. Memes like like the viral memes, like the literally ideas, yeah, like mimetic. So yeah, again, that premise is still on with that movie, brought to you by Carl's Jr. So
welcome to Costco. I love you.
Yeah, right. So I get annoyed by people who like try to critique that film and say, "Oh, this movie is either racist or eugenic or whatever." It's like, no, I get your points, okay, but then toss those parts out. The movie is still telling the truth, or still spreading some degree of truth. Okay, so that's the thing with this intellect is like, how is even the people in this study with psychology today, like, how are they gauging how a person's intelligent? What, by like high school grades? Like what's the sauce? Because all of those things don't really gauge, intelligence, in my opinion. Because like you said, there's multiple types of intelligence. There's so much more to that.
Yeah, well, they must have given them all some form of IQ test, and I'm guessing that's how they gauge their intelligence.
Right.
Because, I mean, how else are you going to do it as a large-scale study?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, because here's the thing, I feel that the amount of sex you have can often it's just a matter of how much time do you have, once you have a sexual partner, okay?
Yeah, but people who give up that time studying have a lot more free time.
Well, right, but
that's their choice.
Yeah, but that's the thing, is that also how intelligent you are, in my opinion, is, I mean, talent's a factor, sure. There might be some nature factors involved, but that's also just a matter of time. How much time do you put into this stuff, to be that intelligent? Because look, not every, like in your field, not every engineer is a natural, like picks up on stuff really, really quickly.
No, that's true.
Yeah, and some people have to just study a lot more. But they still get to the same end game. They still get to the same end goal. They still become the same great engineer. It just takes them longer. So that's the thing. A lot of this really just comes down to time. How much time do you have to invest into this? Whether it's intelligence or having sex.
Yeah, and like you said, there is a lot of different types of intelligences. Like I never got the best grades in college.
Sure.
And I had friends who did. They got every question right, and it was incredible how perfectly they just like knew the systems and the equations and how to put together these like energy and mass balances. And I struggled with that the entire time.
Right.
It was always a challenge. And yet I can still pick up on certain things that they cannot. Like I just catch on to certain things very quickly. Not necessarily educational material, but hints and cues and other things like that. So like you said, there's just not one way of measuring intelligence. So that is something that we can call into question in this study. However, I would say if we're just painting with broad brush strokes here, what they're saying is probably true, that people who have whatever degree of intelligence, they're more cautious in general.
Right.
Not always true. I mean, you weren't cautious with your selection of sexual partners, but
yeah,
most people are.
Yeah.
That are more intelligent.
Yeah. Well, so I'm going to bring up another point as well, because and based upon the idea that like anybody can fit into this intelligent mold, if that intelligence is just how much do you know? Because again, given enough time, I think just about anybody can know a lot, right? It just takes some people longer than others.
All right, but I'm not saying that your intelligence is only based on what you memorized.
No,
like,
I know.
I think you are brilliant in other ways too. Like you can pick up on philosophical arguments and break things down to their primary elements in a way that I think most people cannot. You see things that are there that might be hidden to others. So there's a lot to it. It's not just that you memorized a lot.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate that, and thank you.
You're smart.
Yeah, I thank you. Well, I'm saying for other people, okay? So as well, like, okay, if it's just like you know a lot of stuff, and usually colloquially or conventionally, when if you do know a lot of things, people will usually say, oh, you're smart, right? You're intelligent because you know a lot of things. That's generally, it's not, most people don't think of it in the Isaac Newton sense, right? Where Isaac Newton was genuinely brilliant. Why? Because he didn't have a lot of information, but he figured a lot out.
Yeah, he spent summers in his bedroom writing entire books. That's how he wrote. What was that book on optics? He wrote that in a summer, I think.
Yeah. So that's a different kind of intelligence, and I would argue that's more perhaps a more true version of it by a dictionary definition. Anyway, regardless, for most people, and I'm sure including psychology today, especially if it comes down to tests, it comes down to what do you know?
Yeah.
Not what can you figure out necessarily, but what do you know? All right, and I think, where was I going to go with that? I kind of lost it.
So, were you trying to get to the point of knowing a lot doesn't necessarily mean you have the intelligence to put together the facts?
No, it wasn't that. It was going to be in relation to sex. But it left me. So there goes. Yeah, here I am boasting about my memory, and then that's gone. So,
well, you got to think with your other head sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah. Oh, okay, all right. Maybe this is the direction that I was going to go. Yes, this is it. Okay. So, a lot of people that study hard, which is what leads to, for most people, knowing a lot. Okay, or knowing things, seeming intelligent, passing tests, all of this. That often comes from certain cultural conditioning. Okay?
Yeah.
For example, why are so many Indian people doctors and programmers and engineers and whatever else? Okay? Why are so many Jews Nobel Prize winners? Why, this and that.
Chinese are always commended on their intelligence.
Totally.
But they live in a competitive society, highly, highly competitive.
Okay, that's my point, is that these people are being raised in cultures that value that kind of intelligence, okay? That value it, and not just value it, force it upon you.
Yes.
It is do or die, okay? And sometimes even literally. And so that, having to meet that expectation of intelligence keeps you from really going out and partying, or from going out and getting the gals. And also a lot of these have religious aspects to them, which are frankly very sexually repressed.
Yeah, religion kills sex drive.
Right. Okay, you're taught, no, sex is bad, or sex is just for this, or whatever.
You should be ashamed of it.
Right.
It's so horrendous when I think about what religion does to humans as far as sex goes.
Right.
Because growing up in a religious family, Baptist,
Mm-hmm.
So very Christian, very American,
Mm-hmm.
just you can't even talk about sex or body parts.
Right.
It's embarrassing to do so.
Right.
You don't get taught about the birds and the bees.
Right.
Unless you go to public school, which, thank God I did at that time of my life, because I never would have figured it out otherwise.
Yeah.
And, I was growing up in a time where, the internet was very young, and, maybe porn was out there, but I, didn't really have access to it because I didn't have the privacy to view it. So it was, just a godsend for me that there was sex education in school.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is I didn't find out about that until it all got dropped on me at once when I was 13 years old.
Right.
And I was like, oh, what is this?
Yeah.
And it's still it took me a very long time to get over that shame, which was ingrained in me, even just for a few short years of being religious.
Right.
So can you imagine if somebody's Catholic and they grew up Catholic their entire lives?
Yeah, no, right.
They just, they're taught they cannot have sex until marriage.
Yeah, or other, other religions in other cultures, and with any of these like particular groups, say that score so well on these supposed IQ tests.
Yeah.
So I think that, to say, like, why is this the case? Why does it seem that, smart, intelligent people don't have as many sexual partners and don't have as much sex? It's like, well, often what made them this appeared to be intelligent person is, a culture that at the same time, again, represses sexuality. Okay? So I think that's one of the biggest factors of why this is true. It's not so much that, like, intelligent people aren't willing to, and I don't even like to use the word risky. That's a value judgment. Okay? I mean, it can be true, like, if you don't know if a person has AIDS or not, that's risky. But...
Yeah, well, you can always ask the person, but you have to have a certain confidence level to do that.
Yeah.
Hey, have you had an STD test lately?
Right, exactly. I mean, like, me, so the amount of sex the amount of sexual partners, I should say, that I had back in the day, again, there was a natural filter for that. Because it was just a different time, for one, and honestly, ironically, it's this very thing that we're talking about, where these were all very smart people, right? Because science fiction fans are all nerds and everything. And this is nerds. This, what if he was just a nerd? Anyway, but they didn't have a bunch of sexual partners, just like this is laying out. But then they finally got out of the house, or they got older or whatever, and they're like, oh, fuck no. I'm done with Christianity, or I'm done with Judaism, or I'm done with this, and I'm going to let my freak flag fly. And finally, they found a place where they felt like they could really connect with people that they couldn't connect with in high school, or a church, or whatever.
Regular life.
Yeah, and so they just let loose. And so when I say that there was a natural filter there, it's because, yes, we were a bunch of people who were not having a ton of sex, growing up.
Yep.
For, both socially, culturally, religiously, for all of those reasons, that wasn't happening.
It was a special circumstance.
Yeah, it was a different time. Today, that's not true anymore. Like that, like, no way. Like, would I go to a science fiction convention with the confidence that the people there haven't had a lot of sex? Fuck no. No way, because, like, science fiction fans aren't inherently nerds anymore. Everybody's a goddamn science fiction fan now, and it's annoying, to be quite frank. And so that filter doesn't exist, and there's whole other slews of problems with all of this. But, like, this is also, I think, and maybe this is worth bringing up as well, that this article's from, like, 2016. And
which, like, was a few years ago, but it's not that long ago.
It's not that long ago, but...
7 years?
Right.
7 years ago?
Yeah, but I get the sense these numbers might be very different today. That...
In what way?
Because I feel like everybody's fucking now. Well, it's not true. Because we know people who are virgins, or did close enough to being virgins. They're not fucking.
No, I think the dating scene has changed to where dating is slightly different than it used to be because of the internet age, and interconnectivity has allowed for a lot more, or should I say a lot less connection and a lot less commitment. Like, ghosting is a very popular thing that happens with people. And there's a lot more of this, like, use dating apps and you can meet up with someone and, like, have a one-night stand or have a lot of sex with no commitment. But I don't think that, like, people are necessarily having more sex or less sex than in general. Like, during the pandemic, these numbers probably went way down.
Oh, they plummeted. Yeah. Sure.
But now, like, I imagine they're back to normal. I don't know the statistics on that.
Yeah.
But that would be an interesting thing to look into.
Yeah, I mean, I think the other part of it, too, is now you have entire... what's the term I want to use? I'm going to say demographics, and I say that with respect, okay? Who are now sexually accepted. Trans people, homosexuality is far more accepted today.
Yeah.
Far more.
homosexuality, bisexuality, all sorts of weirdo sexualities.
And again, we're weirdos. Like weirdo isn't derogatory.
Oh, and I would never say that in a negative way. Like, I am a bisexual person.
Yeah, right, exactly. So, I just wanted to make sure it was clear. But that's the thing, is that I think there's just so much more to be had now, you know? Like,
there's a lot more variety. There's a lot of juiciness out in the world.
Yeah, and it's not behind closed doors. You don't have to know any secret handshakes to find it. You don't have to well, shit, I can only go to the Blue Oyster Bar for that, and it's not true anymore, and so I'm going to guess that this is very different today. That I just kind of feel like everybody's fucking, just like same thing with drugs. Like, I feel like people who don't do marijuana now are so wild, so odd. Like, you are such a strange fucking person. What are you doing on this planet? That's just my opinion, because so many of these things have become normalized,
Yeah, maybe. I think that you might also be experiencing a warped perception of reality because of the internet era. Like,
oh, maybe. Yeah.
These hot topic issues, excuse me. So these, the strange and the weird and the things that were previously repressed, they are getting that worldwide audience, that stage online, Instagram, Facebook, whatever.
Yeah.
Take your pick. Twitter, X, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Because, they've had to speak out and speak up for themselves and clear the way in order to be accepted.
Yeah.
And they're getting disproportionately, covered online. So there's a lot more presence online, I think, and that's making the perception of how much they're being accepted as being more than it is. Yeah.
It's such a great point. And you're actually bringing in another element for me. And this was a really, this is a moment crystallized in my mind from the past few years that honestly really pissed me off. So, I'm in the PR industry.
Yep.
Okay. I talk to a lot of journalists by trade. Okay. I've worked with companies, major companies, that deal in, we'll say, the sex industry, whether it be lubes, condoms, these kinds of things. Okay. I also deal with medical professionals who are sex professionals, they're the real deal.
As in they write about sexual health?
Yeah. They're sexologists, right? And all this. And huge names. People who've been on, major TV shows and all this shit, okay?
Yeah.
So...
But you can't name any of them.
No, I'm not gonna name any of them, yeah. But trust me, they're big. So... I have to talk to journalists sometimes. Journalists who write about sex, say media outlets like Giddy and some of these other ones, that deal with a lot of BuzzFeed, whoever. Okay. I had an experience a while back on Twitter /X, on Twitter years ago. It was Twitter at the time, and this writer was just fielding on Twitter, okay, how many times, how often do you have sex? And I was like, oh, you know what? I'll toss my hat in the ring here. This is somebody I know and have worked with for years or whatever. And there were a couple other experiences like this as well, but this was the big one. And I said how much?
What did you say?
Oh, I said at least once a day, pretty much, if not multiple times a day.
Well,
and it was true.
Maybe at the time it was.
No, it's true. Yeah, it was totally true. And crickets. But everybody else who listed off all kinds of, oh yeah, maybe, once a month or this or that, they were all given legitimacy and recognition by this journalist. The journalist knows I'm a real person, and I'm not BSing them, but that's kind of the funny thing, is that I think and I hope that's what it was, is that she just didn't believe it. No, nobody does that. And she just thought that I was BS, kind of joshing her or something,
Well, so The thing is, there's this popular belief in psychology circles that men always exaggerate how much they have sex, and women kind of underestimate. And like, I think that's so. Like, there were weeks where yes, that was true, and sometimes that's still true. But I wouldn't say that's every week.
Yeah, but here's the thing: is that, and this is a big problem. Okay, and this is veering a little bit away from the Psychology Today article. Okay, what this journalist was looking for was fucked up sex lives. Like, she was not looking to hear that there are people out there with great sex lives.
Really? Because I feel like she could have read into that and said, like, oh, you're a sex addict. There's something unhealthy about that.
Yeah.
So if she was looking for something fucked up, I mean, she could have dug into that.
Yeah,
but if you were the only one, I see why she didn't touch it.
Yeah, but there are other there are other scenarios like this, and ultimately the conclusion I came to is that, like, okay, there's a couple conclusions that I came to, but these journalists do not want to report about healthy sex. Okay.
No, they want to talk about the people that are like not having sex enough.
Yeah, whatever fucked up shit.
Okay.
The other thing is that what I have walked away from working years in sex journalism, including scientific studies in relation to that, because usually these outlets have to quote those. Okay. Is that most people, like, is what I mentioned earlier, that everybody's fucking. But most people have a horrendous, incredibly unhealthy sex life. And it's not just unhealthy because there's no right or wrong, really. No right or wrong amount of sex. It's just, is it what you want?
Yeah, it all comes down to personal preference.
Yes, right. And that's what consensuality is all about, or being consensual is all about. But regardless, okay, sex has exploded. But it's...
Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm a child.
No, I know. No. This is very punny. Yeah. It's coming everywhere. Anyway, sex has exploded, okay? But because sex is so misunderstood in modern civilization, partly due to the sexual repression that was going on, as well as the failures and cults that came out of the sexual revolution of the 60s... Okay.
And they were failures.
Yes. Yeah. And it's not just, I also blame drugs. I'm going to, like certain drugs. I'm going to blame drugs about this. Okay. And I'm not saying all drugs are bad. I'm not even saying psychedelics are bad. I'm not saying anything like that. I'm saying that the relationship people have with them is not...
It was unhealthy.
It's not studied enough. It's not a proper narrative. It's not healthy. It's, okay. All right. In and of themselves, then I'm not saying they are bad. There are people who do it in healthy ways and in healthy environments, and that's wonderful, and there's new research going on with it, and great. I'm here for you. Okay, awesome. I love you. So, but for most people, because there are not proper narratives, because our cultures do not respect sex, the sexual act, and it really doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
Right.
And that's something I have a huge problem with too, is with like casual sex and people not giving sex the respect that it deserves.
Yeah. I mean, and I'll gladly blame Hollywood for a lot of this as well. Okay.
Oh fuck yeah.
Yeah. So basically, like, everybody's having fucked up sex, or most people are.
That's an interesting statement.
Yeah. It's not healthy.
Up.
It's not healthy. But they know they want to have sex for very good reasons, because we are sexual creatures.
Yeah, of course.
We are 100% biologically sexual creatures. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Like that's not.
And it's a wonderful, beautiful thing.
Yes. And are there differences? Are there, like, some humans that are asexual? Look, rock and roll. Okay. I'm not. When I say 100%, I'm sorry. I don't mean to denigrate you in any way. I'm not denigrating you. You are what you are, and rock and roll. Okay.
But there's absolutely nothing wrong with having that desire.
No, right. But my point when I say 100%, like, we have sexual organs for a reason. Okay, all right, now.
Yeah, and our clitoris is exposed for a reason, and the male penis is proportionally bigger in humans than in most other animals for a reason.
Right, and you could totally be asexual, but, like, your biology, it has sexual organs, so you're a sexual species. Okay.
Yeah, and there's a lot of research on this separate topic, but like humans specifically are designed for sex in a way that most other animals are not. Like, we are designed to get the utmost amount of pleasure out of it.
Yes, right, because sex for us, for humanity, co-evolved. Okay, it's procreation and social.
Very social.
Yeah. Okay. So, for people to, even though they're having fucked up sex, to still want it, well, of course you do. It's your goddamn programming, okay? Like that, and that's okay. That's good. I'm not saying that the fucked up sex is good. I'm just saying it's okay that you're a sexual creature and you want to have sex and whatever. Okay. So this is now flip side all of this. If you are an intelligent person and you look around, and you say to yourself, oh, everybody's a fucking idiot. And you're not wrong.
Well, you say that sometimes.
Yeah, I say it often. And again, I'm not even saying these intelligent people out there are wrong.
And I sympathize with you.
Yeah, sure. And you look around and you go, and all these idiots are fucking, and they're partying and they're doing whatever and all this. And so you have, like, you create, even outside of any cultural or any religious or any kind of a nurture upbringing of repression of sex, and you see that and you go, well, I'm not gonna, I'm surrounded by idiots, I'm not gonna fuck idiots. Like, I understand where you're coming from in that. And so then kind of bringing this full circle, are we back to where intelligent people aren't having sex and have very few sexual partners? Now, ironically, also that might be true, just because they're
having a difficult time finding a partner that they would respect as an equal.
Yeah, that would have sex in the, dare I say, sacred fashion, or that treat it with the respect that it deserves. And they're having a hard time with that. Yeah, that's also probably starting to happen again.
Yeah, certainly. I have a friend. You mentioned him earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I talk with him often about this, and it's so wonderful that he trusts me this much to tell me all these details about his life. But he is having a hard time. Like, I don't want to say he's a virgin, because he did, like, try to have sex once and it just didn't work out very well. But he wants to find a partner that he can not only have sex with, but somebody that he would genuinely love. Yeah. And he's having such a hard time with that. Like, he wants to find real love. He doesn't want to just casually date.
Right.
And it's difficult because he is a highly intelligent person.
Yes, he is.
Highly, highly intelligent, and I have the utmost respect for him. He's just, unfortunately, like, not that physically attractive. So, it's just, I feel like it's more of that, lining up with the story that we're reading, like, yes, he wants to have that beautiful, sacred, very well-connected, healthy relationship. But there's not a lot of people out there who are ready for that.
Yeah. Boy, like, there's so much I want to say, on this, because it's so, in my opinion, this doesn't have to be true for everybody, but the universe operates in certain ways, and there's ways you can flow with that, and there's ways that you can't. That all sounds very weird to me to say, but the point I'm getting at, I think sex is an important part of the operation of the universe itself. Okay? And
can you just pause on that?
I'll pause on that.
And kind of describe more what you mean by the operation of the universe.
Oh, boy.
You don't have to go too deep, because I know this is a huge subject.
It is.
Just, give it a couple sentences, maybe.
Yeah, okay. Sex is a sacred act. Sex... the simplest two words I can put out there is sex magic, okay? Sex influences forces within universe itself, okay? And in fact, the very reason, this may be the important thing for me to mention, the very reason, why do all these religions repress sex? And that's because the very ancient priesthoods that most of these religions are based on knew the power of sex, which is why they engaged in sexual acts in their temples and wherever else. And this is just true for Christianity, take your Abrahamic religions, take your pick, okay? They taught repression of sex because they wanted all of the power that sex magic, sexual acts allowed for them to have. Okay? So sexual repression is completely about repressing your own personal power and really shoring it up with a very elite group of people. Now, the important thing to understand is that, again, when you have sex, like, that does cause changes in the universe. Okay, in the universe. If you are having unhealthy sex, like if you are having sex that doesn't come with that sacredness, that doesn't come with that understanding of the power of sex, you're not going to get very far in your relationships and your love life and all these other things, because you're just putting out there more fucked up, more...
Yeah, you're attracting more unhealthy and negative experiences to yourself. Yeah,
negativity. You're ultimately like garnering in more negativity for yourself and putting more negativity out in the universe, And in fact, I mean, I'd almost be, and whatever, people want to call this crazy, that's fine. They can email me q22@nwo.red and I'll gladly do a whole episode. I mean, I've already done this in Q&As a million times over, and all the patrons, nobody's leaving. They're all listening. They're like, whoa, what's this sex magic? What's all this about? What's this Kabbalah? What's this all about? And, I'm laying it out right for them, okay? And I'm happy to do that publicly, too. But, yeah, I mean, I'd almost blame, like, if the world is really fucked up right now, it comes down to there's plenty of reasons why, but one of the reasons that it's not really fixing, or it's not getting fixed, and it's not really getting solved and not getting better, is because the quality, not the quantity even, the quality of sex is preposterous today. It's terrible.
Yeah, people are not demanding better for themselves. Yes. They don't expect better of themselves. And that is what's leading to such poor quality relationships.
Yeah. So, I know that's it's kind of a side subject, but that's basically what I am seeing, is that, even let's say this is still true from psychology today, it's really just comes down to that most people are completely fucked up, and the people that have any shred of what appears to be intelligence are like, well, I'm not getting involved in all that crap.
Don't dip your toe in that pool.
Yeah, and good for them. I guess. I mean, it's just sad.
I'm not going to climb those ramparts.
Yeah, right.
Not going to pass through that jade gate.
Yeah, and I know all of this sounds like that jade gate. There's the Asian saga for you. Yeah, and I know all this comes off as like really judgmental, but it's just how I feel about it. And
I think you have to be judgmental. You have to exercise judgment in order to make prudent choices.
Yeah.
And that is what allows you to achieve higher and higher levels of success, not only in life, but with your relationships.
Yeah.
With your sexual health, with your personal health, with your relationship health.
Yeah.
You have to have judgment, you have to exercise it, you have to make good choices, sometimes difficult choices, but I'm just saying, I agree. I think judgment is an important aspect of sexual decision making.
Yeah. I mean, and a big part of it is, I think we live in a civilization now that is completely where, there's always like quantity versus quality, right? Now, there's never just always two options, that like those kind of binary dichotomies are usually bullshit.
Yeah, I get quantity and quality.
Right. You can have both. You can have it all, folks.
I can have it all.
but anyway,
I do.
As do I. Yes. But to play within the dichotomy, we live in a civilization that has become overwhelmingly quantity over quality. Like everything is quantity, from entertainment to whatever. It's all quantity. Like you're inundated, with the amount of choices that you have.
And it's hard to make choices when you have that many.
Yes. Yeah, that's the paradox of choice. Totally. Where ironically, the more choices you have, the less your ability to make choices.
And the less satisfied you are with the choices that you make.
Totally. Yeah. So we've run into that as well. But a lot of people, and then not sexually, but like, when it comes to entertainment, some other things, like even I'm often can struggle with this a bit of, it's like, no, I have to take it all in, you know what I mean? And that's just not possible.
You have struggled with that.
Right. Yeah. So.
And it's hard to say no to that. It's hard to back away from that because you feel like you're losing out.
Yeah.
When in actuality, you're just applying a more stringent filter.
Right. And so, this quantity problem, like for there to be quantity, kind of inherently, these things have to be of lesser quality, kind of.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you can't have like the greatest minds thinking out the most brilliant storylines, like, putting out movies every single year.
Yeah.
That just doesn't make sense.
Yeah. So,
or like you always bring up with Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is something that's been happening with Star Wars lately.
Oh, there's too much.
Yeah. And it's not as good as it used to be.
Yeah, and it has to be lesser quality because especially when like everything is canon, like you can't make definitive statements and have 100 books a year, or there's not that many, but however stories come out, because then everybody has to keep track of those. And so like, no, everything has to be more meaningless. So that way we don't paint ourselves in a corner and we can keep selling more stories and more stories. And, this is the nature of capitalism. I mean, I've said this all the time. Capitalism isn't about creating the best. Capitalism is only about making what's next. It doesn't care about the best. It only cares about next. Okay? That's a big problem. So we're kind of going all over here, but the real solution here, okay, and if this means intelligent people have less sexual partners, fine. It doesn't have to be that way, but if that's what it means, okay. But people just need to have fucking higher standards, And
yeah, I agree.
And it's sad because also we now live in a civilization where, like, look, yeah, I accept everybody for whatever they want to be, and that's fine, and I don't care.
Yeah, no, I think everybody's rad in whatever way they want to be.
Yeah, right. At the same time, like, there are some objective metrics, perhaps not of intelligence, but there are objective metrics of health. There are objective metrics of, dare I say, sanity. There are objective metrics of, and when I say health, I mean mental and physical health and all of these things. And we now live in a civilization where also we're told no, like there are no objective metrics of health, which is insane. Like, does obesity increase your chance for a heart attack? Yes or no? The answer is yes. Okay, like there, and it's not a fucking debate. Like this, it's yes. Also, and I'll be fair. Also, massive muscularity, steroid-induced muscularity, also increases your chances for a heart attack, for cardiac arrest, for health or for heart problems. Okay,
being an idiot and swallowing like 4 dry tablespoons of pre-workout increases your chances of heart attack.
Right. Okay, yeah. So this is the thing, but we're told no, you're fine. be yourself. You're fine. You're this. And it's like, no, no, you're not.
Everybody is fine being whatever they want to be. There's nothing wrong with that. But scientifically, objectively, does that make you the optimal being that you can possibly be?
Right.
No.
Right.
And the science today is, going in a direction where people are trying to refute the age-old wisdom of, like, this is what healthy is. Mm-hmm. And it's just to make people feel more accepted. Mm-hmm. Now, I want everyone to feel accepted.
Yeah, totally.
I want everyone to feel a sense of belonging. But that does not mean that I am going to love everyone in the same way,
Yeah.
Like, not everyone's on the same level. Not everyone's on the same playing field.
Yeah.
And there's certain metrics that I think people should have higher standards on, like not necessarily confidence, maybe self-esteem. I think self-esteem is an important thing. Mm-hmm. Are you being the best that you personally can be? Mm-hmm. And if that answer is a yes, then that's incredible. And I think that's more important than straight intelligence.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Yeah, no, incredibly wise, as you always are.
Thank you.
Yeah. I guess to kind of like bring this all together. Okay, so for example, this article is saying more intelligent you are, less sex you're having. Okay? And less sexual partners. That is not true for you and I. Okay?
No.
So my argument would be, now sex is, for me, is inextricably linked with my level of happiness. Okay? It's a part of it. And sex doesn't even have to be PIV, folks. Like, let me make that clear. Because we should have defined that as well. What is sex? If you're masturbating all the time, are you happy? I don't know. But that depends.
Well,
also.
that's different.
That's a value thing as well.
Yeah.
Anyway, so what leads to us bucking this trend? What leads, or at least for me, like, why do I have a level of happiness and sexual satisfaction? Why is this not true for me? And if you were to ask me that question, Stallion, what's your secret? Here's my secret. It's not because of how I look. It's not because of my intelligence. It is because of my ridiculously high standards. My ridiculously high standards that I hold not just to the person that I want to have sex with, but that I hold to myself. Okay? And it can't be one way or the other. All right? You either have high standards for yourself, like Ayn Rand was preposterous, okay? But let me tell you something where she was dead on the money. When she writes, Francisco in Atlas Shrugged, saying, it's like, you show me who the person's sleeping with, and I'll tell you everything about that person.
Yeah, 100%. Like that. On the mark.
Yes. Like that is the singular genius thing, perhaps, that she laid out. And it's so true. Okay, and that speaks to that self-esteem that you brought up, Ellen. Do you want to have a lot of sex in your life? Okay. You got to hold the people you're going to have sex with up to, in my opinion, up to high standards. But those high standards have to be reflected in yourself. Otherwise, what is the person is good that you want to fuck is going to look at you and say, what the hell? Like, why would I sleep with you? Because she or he or Z or whatever is going to see reflected in you that lack of confidence. Confidence is very sexy, right? That's the classic Jack Palance line. Okay. Sex is ultimately a matter, it's not a transaction, but it is a matter of personal value. How do you value yourself and other people? And the more you want comes down to, how you value yourself. Again, it comes down to those high standards. That's all. I feel like I'm kind of speaking in circles here, but I just want to get to that, is that the high standard, what makes me happy in life, what has led me to this level of happiness, it's not the amount of money, it's not the looks, it's not the brains, it's not the muscles, it's not any of that stuff. It comes down to, in the abstract, it comes down to the just insanely high standards that I hold myself to, and that I will only accept those who also hold themselves to those high standards. Is it hard to find people like that? You bet.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a miracle that you and I found each other.
Well, okay, yes, it was. So here's the thing, is that when you do hold yourself up to those high standards, while yes, it's hard to find other people who hold themselves up to those high standards, however, when you do see each other, I mean, you're like red alert. You're klaxons. You're like nukes going off next to each other. Like you can't miss it.
Yeah.
You're blinding each other. You know, like from across the room. You know, it's two disco balls.
Magnetically attracted.
Yeah. I mean, you can't miss it because holy shit, look at that person. You know, and you instantly know, wow, they hold themselves up to a high fucking standard. Okay, and I mean, and that's part of the beauty of holding yourself up to high standards as well, is you can see all the bullshit around you. And it sucks, and it's depressing, for sure. And depression can certainly kill your sex life as well, and that's terrible. But believe me, the other people are out there. They're somewhere. And you can't give up.
Yeah, you can't give up.
You can't give up, and you gotta keep holding on to those high standards, otherwise you're just never gonna fucking have it. You'll never have it.
And like I keep telling people, if you just put yourself out there online, like that... So... Online presence is what allowed us to find each other.
Yes.
And I think there is less of a reason now to not find someone that you can love because of the internet, which breaks local barriers. I mean, eventually, yes, you want to be person to person next to each other in the real world. Yeah. But in order to initially meet somebody, like the internet, that's what it's ideal for, because it can connect you across hundreds, thousands of miles.
Yeah, and including it can like really, you can connect over a lot of niche things.
Yes.
Multiple niche things, which is important. So yeah, no, I agree with that. Yeah. So
But yeah, once we found each other, I mean, it was all over.
Oh yeah. Looking across the room, holy shit. Yeah, it's yep. Totally. Yeah, that's really the secret, you know, is as far, again, it doesn't come down to the intellect, it doesn't come down to any of that stuff. It really is just those ridiculously high standards, and they're okay to have. You know, it's okay to judge, it's okay to discern, it's okay to want that, and it's okay, you know, the classic Rocky line, if you know what you're worth, go out and get what you're worth.
Yeah.
But you gotta know.
I feel kind of preposterous saying this, but like, if you believe that you are a treasure, you know, only give to yourself to the person who you find worthy of that treasure. And like, if you find that person that is worthy, you know, it's okay to just give all of it. Yeah.
I mean, and the other part of that too is that I think, you know, when you do hold yourself to the high standards and you live it, you inspire other people.
Yeah.
You might, and you don't want to do this intentionally, but unintentionally, you might create more of the people around you that you're wanting to be with.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, don't try to control people or anything like that, but just fucking live and just be
inspirational.
Yeah, be inspirational. You know, I was going to sound corny and say, just go out there and be that badass, you know, but I hate it. You know, I hate it when people say that because usually they're just trying to sell you a book. But no, I mean it from the bottom of my heart. And yeah, so I don't know. Where do we land on this ultimately?
Well, I think the reason that you and I are so passionate about each other is because we do see those reflected values.
Oh, totally.
And that's why we're able to like so passionately, you know, have sex multiple times a week. More so than the average American does.
Yeah. No, completely. Because I mean, and again, it's. I'm going to say something that's kind of shocking, but then I think it's important to say it. Like, I'm obsessed with you.
I love it.
Okay, yeah, I'm completely obsessed with you. But you know what else? I'm also completely obsessed with myself. Meaning, I love myself. Like, I radically love myself.
And that's wonderful.
Right. And that's part of that high standards, okay? But that's really important.
It is.
And if you don't love yourself, well, there's step one. There's your first problem.
That's building the foundation.
Yeah,
of love.
It's like, wait, well, yeah, why aren't I having great sex? Why aren't I doing this? Well,
start with the man in the mirror.
Yeah. You don't love yourself, you know, and yeah, but we're not supposed to say that. We're not supposed to say that we're like self-interested or that we're, you know, in all these things.
Well,
but no, I think that's key.
Talk so much about self-care lately. Take care of yourself. And I think that's, you know, that's helpful, but it's not getting to the core of what is really important, which is exactly what you said, self-love.
Yeah.
Like, you don't just take care of yourself like a pet, you know? Like, oh, I'm tired, so I should give myself a rest because I deserve it. You know, like my dog did a trick, so I'm going to give it a treat now. It's like, no, take care of yourself because you love yourself. And you want the best for yourself. And you want to shower yourself with all of the finest things in life.
Yeah.
And once you achieve that level of self-love, not necessarily narcissism, but...
No, yeah.
But, you know, a true appreciation of, like, I am a wonderful being, an individual that deserves to be happy.
Yeah.
And you truly, like, make efforts to achieve that for yourself.
Yeah.
I think that is the foundation of love of other people, you know? But
yes.
That's also, like, you know, the foundation to all healthy things in life.
Yeah. Well, I mean, how can you love another person if you don't know how to love yourself? You don't even know how to love. You know, like...
Yeah. Oh, God. So one time I was talking to this man who was polyamorous, and
okay.
I think he was, like, trying to get me to come into his poly circle.
His circle? His polycule?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, we're hanging out at his house, and we're talking, and I was like, well, it sounds like you don't love yourself. And he said, well, I don't need to love myself. I have other people to do that for me. And I was just so put off by that. I was like, whoa, time for me to go. I am not going to stick around for this train wreck.
Oh, dear.
Yeah,
okay.
That was just so sad.
Yeah.
But also kind of gross at the same time. Like,
yeah.
No, I'm not going to love you if you think that you're a piece of shit. Like, if you think that about yourself, what am I missing? You know? Like, there's something lurking in there that is just very messed up.
Yeah.
And it's worrisome when people say things like that. Like, what happened to you that you cannot love yourself?
Yeah.
And I also wonder about those other people. Like, not that I ever question that people deserve love, because they do.
Yes.
But, like, sexual love is a totally different thing. Like, what is it that people are seeing in you that they want to have sex with you? Like, it's just very worrisome to me when I hear people say things like that.
Yeah.
Like, you absolutely have to love yourself for other people to love you.
Yeah.
In that way, I should say.
Yeah. No, completely. I totally agree.
Otherwise, it's not going to be healthy. It's not going to be lasting. It's not going to be what you need to be happy.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, I guess ultimately, what do we think here? Do we think this is true, that intelligent people have less partners and
less frequency of sex?
Yeah.
I would say ultimately probably yes.
It's still true.
Yeah. Just if we're going based on IQ tests, you know, because there's still the fact that, like, intelligent people, if they're really thinking long term, they're wanting a long-term healthy relationship, they're looking for something that is rare, you know, and it's hard to find. And we've already discussed that. We agree that that's a thing.
Yeah.
And they're also, like, you know, less impulsive.
Yep.
So I think ultimately I agree.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's again, a lot of problems, I think, within perhaps some conclusions, but it's probably sadly still true. And I say sadly because it really should be the exact opposite.
It should be.
Yeah, but we have a lot of cultural norms and narratives that have to get destroyed, have to get just taken, or, you know, just taken out, you know, and removed. And an understanding, ultimately, an understanding of what sex is.
And it's a healing act.
Yeah, yeah.
It's an exchange of energy.
Yeah, it's many things. You know, yeah, it's an exchange of energy. It's, you know, it's sacred. I mean, like, what's, you know, how can I, you know, and I've had people ask me this, how can you improve your sex life? And, you know, usually one of the first things I'll say to them is, well, just try pretending that it's a sacred act just once and see what happens. And I think that's worked for a lot of people.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. Just, and they don't even have to tell the other person. They don't have to tell the partner, you know, But just just imagine you're engaging in a very sacred act. And what does sacred mean? Well, it means a lot of different things to different people. But in general, they see it as no, this is something that's precious, something to take time with, right? To be in the moment with, and so on. And usually people can grok that, and I think even just doing that can radically change a person's, the sexual act itself. So,
interesting.
Yeah, this needs to change. And I hope it will.
It does. Yeah, like you said initially, it's the kingdom upside down.
Yes, it is. It is quite literally the kingdom upside down. Yeah.
Well, we've been talking about this for a very long time.
For an hour. And we still have 2 more. Oh my, holy hell. We've been going for 2.5 hours.
Well, I guess we're not covering either of those other stories.
No, we'll save those for the next episode.
Okay.
Because I know you'll be on again.
Yes.
They were wonderful stories, though, that
Thank
also
you.
had to do, actually would have been great. One of them had to do with religion.
I was so excited to talk about that with you, but I guess we'll just have to record again.
Well, yeah, we're going to save it, and we'll just do it next week. It'll just come out for next week.
Did we still want to talk about that new album by Icarus Witch?
I think we should get it in.
Yeah.
Do you want to do it?
Let's do it.
Wow, it's almost 8 o'clock.
I know.
All right. So Icarus Witch. Let me build this up a little bit. Icarus Witch. This is a band. This isn't a band. There's nothing against Bandcamp. My music is on Bandcamp. Okay, but this is a band signed to a real goddamn metal, or to a real record album, or a record label, I should say, Cleopatra Records. Okay, serious as a heart attack. This is the real deal. All right, we're not talking about somebody who just publishes on YouTube or something along those lines, even though I'm not delegitimizing any of that either. So Icarus Witch has been around for a while. First album came out in 2005, and we are talking about their latest album that just came out at the end of October 2023, that being No Devil Lived On, and this is their 6th album. So we're 6 albums deep inside of almost 20 years. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Especially for someone, for a band, and they're a metal band. They're a traditional metal band. Think Dio. Think even like Judas Priest and all that. Oh yeah. There's honestly a lot of Dio and Judas Priest in there, in my opinion.
Yep.
And there has been for a while. And
I feel that.
Yeah, even their most recent lead singer, I feel like he sings. Oftentimes, it's a mix between like a Dio. And, I mean, no one really sounds like Dio, and no one really sounds like Rob Halford, but it's in that vein. It's in that frequency, and I love it. Okay?
Yeah. Very epic.
Yeah, great singer. And, so, they play in that style, and they don't just play in that style, but, how can I put this? They produce in that style, meaning today, rightly or wrongly, a lot of music and even big metal bands have gotten to the point where they're like, nah, I'll just put out an EP. I'll just put out an extended play, 4 songs. Or, I'll just put out a single every year or every 6 months or something like that. And they don't even make albums anymore. Or they've fallen into, this is something a lot of people don't know, is just how much Spotify has changed the music industry. I don't mean because artists aren't making money. I mean, they've literally changed the way music gets made. Okay. First off, Spotify, let's be clear on this very quickly. Spotify is not a success. Spotify has never turned a profit. Once. Ever. Any quarter. In all the years it's existed, it's never turned a profit. It is, by dictionary definition, it is a failure of a business. Okay. But it's the way most people consume music. Because of this, and the way that you make money off of it, you make money off of it by, how often do they listen to a song? And also, like when it comes to albums, say, how many songs are there? How much have they listened to? It all comes down to how much have they listened to. So 2 things have very much changed in the music industry as late. One is songs have gotten a lot shorter. Like the average song now is probably 2.5 minutes. As to where it used to be 3.5, 4.
For metal, you mean, or for any?
For all music, metal. But even metal, this is true. And you could think of some of the bigger names, even in somewhat more modern metal, even though I guess Godsmack would be classic rock now, probably.
Yeah.
But they're to the point where they only make 2.5-minute songs. In fact, they don't even write their own music anymore, which the music that's coming out is great. It's because they're getting great music writers, but that's kind of that annoys the fuck out of me. Okay, nothing against Sully Erna. I don't mean to rip on the guy. I like him. But a lot of metal songs have gotten incredibly shorter. Why? Because that gives you can play it more. Play it again. Oh, that was a good hook. Play it again. And that racks up more money, right? Or, why are so many artists coming out with these crazy long, like super deluxe set box albums, whatever? And often that's because there's more songs to go through, to play through, and that's the more money that the artist gets. As to where it used to be, okay, albums used to only be like 8 or 9 songs. Then they would get to like 18, 20 songs in the 90s. And part of that was, okay, no, we're going to sell albums for ridiculous amounts of money. I mean, can you imagine spending $25 for one album?
Oh, I used to.
Right. Okay, we used to. But like today, you ask a kid that today, they'd be like, what the fuck? Like, no way.
Yeah, right.
In fact, I'm going to buy an album? What? Like that's anathema to them, okay? So that's the thing. So albums have really taken kind of a back seat, or albums as we understand them. The beautiful thing about Icarus Witch is that they're not just traditional, like I said, in how they play, in their style of metal, but also in the production overall. Okay, so this is an album with, we're just pulling it up right here. So 9 tracks, just like I mentioned. And looks like the average length of a song is about 5 minutes. There's a 10-minute opus at the end there. You got a 6-minute kick-ass song, Last Night on Earth, which I recommend everybody go and listen to.
Oh, heck yeah. I love this album. Honestly, it's shorter than I expected it to be, but it's so powerful.
Yeah. But like play-wise, it matches up with, a longer album, right? Just on time. So, but that's what I love about it, is that this is a genuine metal album. It's an album, it's not a bunch of singles, it's not like, 1 or 2 singles here and there.
It's a whole concept album.
Yeah, and actually it is that. It is also a concept album. But this is metal getting made in every sense, in every way. This is metal getting made in the way that I grew up with how metal was made, and how most people who grew up with heavy metal, how metal was made. Not the modern shit. Fuck that. Okay, and I love it for it, that it's traditional in every way. So just, putting that out there first. So Icarus Witch, again, this is their 6th album. I'll say this outright. I think the album's track for track. 9 songs.
Yeah.
Every song is great. Every song is great. Completely. There's no filler whatsoever.
It all tells a story. Right,
which was a problem when albums got to like that 18 song level, because there was a bunch of filler back in the day.
Yeah, how do you even make 18 songs for an album?
Right. Unless you're Alanis Morissette, forget it. You have to be a genius to be able to pull that off. Or if you're Prince, you could do it maybe. But yeah, so no filler here, folks. Every song is tight. Yeah, there's some long ones, but it's all there to tell a tremendous story. Great hooks. Icarus Witch, in my opinion, has one of the best guitarists on the planet right now, that being Quinn Lucas. This is a guitarist. He teaches guitar to people, for fuck's sake. That's how good you are. That's like Randy Rhoads. Randy Rhoads wanted to teach people how to play guitar. And boy, how blessed someone would be for that, because he was such an amazing guitar player. But anyway, Quinn Lucas, phenomenal. You're getting great opening hooks on every single one of these songs.
The drums were amazing. Drums
are insane. Yeah, they've got what equates to a Ferrari on drums. This guy, just the double kick is insane. The bassist, Jason Myers,
can't beat it.
Insane. I love the man. I really do. So, and I can say that because and I'll be honest. He's a great friend, and
he's so talented.
So ridiculously talented. This guy. I don't know how he does this. I really don't. That's true for most musicians. I don't know how the hell they do it. But his bass work, the bassists are always my favorite in any band anyway. I think Gene Simmons, Nikki Sixx. I could just keep going down the list of them. But yeah, he just, the songwriting on this is phenomenal.
Would you say that he majorly contributed to the lyrics?
Yeah. I think he's like a major force in a lot of this, and and that's another strong point for this album as well. And I want to get your take on all of this, Ellen. But that's another strong point with this album as well, is the lyrics actually make sense. I mean, they always do in an Icarus Witch album, okay? But really, like there's a story being told here, and that's kind of rare, because I feel like a lot of music today, even metal, is just put some words in there, make them as broad as possible so that they can appeal to the largest amount of people. I hate that. No, I want you to tell me a specific story. Like, one of my favorites of all time, Neil Diamond. Neil Diamond would put specific shit in. I want to know the names. I want to know the people you're singing about, who broke your heart. I want to know what street you were on. Tell me the story, right? And this is an album where I feel like you get specifics, you get a story told. What do you think? Because this is a bit of a concept album. What do you think of that story, Ellen?
Oh my gosh. Where to even begin? Well, can I just say before we go into that, I also want to compliment the vocals on this album.
Yeah.
So, like you mentioned, a lot of Dio themes in there, but the harmonization that happened...
Oh, yes.
So beautiful. Like, yes. It was just offset in such a way that made it sound very vibrant and... amazingly, so this isn't always true with metal, and I'm not complaining about that, but I can actually understand everything that he's saying. Like, he pronounces it very well.
Right.
So,
which is a problem with DragonForce, by the way. Who knows, like we said, who knows the fucking lyrics to DragonForce song?
Yeah, exactly.
It's very rare. Anyway, yeah, go ahead.
So I just wanted to compliment the vocals as well. Like, so wonderful.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, I want to touch on that just to touch as well. Like, it's not to the point of gang vocals, even though I love gang vocals, which is where, like, there's moments where the lead singer is not singing and the rest of the band is bringing in the vocal. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's what they call gang vocals. It's not, I love that, but it's not that. It's more of the way that Michael Anthony in Van Halen would, and most people don't even realize it, right? Like, you would pick it up, Ellen, but it's just in the back, bringing a slightly different harmony that just powers the song even more and brings up the lead vocalist's voice even more. Or Phil Collen, not Collins, but Phil Collen in Def Leppard would do this. Or like Richie Sambora. Like, most people don't know. Phil Collins is a great singer. Richie Sambora is a great singer. Michael Anthony is a phenomenal singer. All these guys are great singers. And you don't notice it because they just have their voice lift the lead vocals up just that much more. But it makes it so much more powerful. Yeah. And I completely agree with you. With Icarus Witch, it was the same exact deal. You have these guys just bring the vocals up that much more. Keep going.
Yeah, well, I guess I don't need to add to that. I mean, it sounded like he was doing his own backing vocals, but there was just a single track, and it was... the notes were offset in such a way that it sounded electrified,
Yep.
So it was just really brilliant what they did there. But as far as the storyline goes, and I'm all about story, and I love this. I'm such a huge fan. Just the idea, and I don't know if you want to go into this too far, but the idea is that, like, the world is in turmoil. It's kind of a dystopia, and all of the elites of the world, politicians, billionaires, they set off on this journey into space thinking that they're going to preserve themselves.
Right.
And the best of what the world has to offer by going on this spaceship carrying away the seeds of life. But it turns out that they end up dying Aniara style in space.
Aniara. This is a movie that nobody should watch, but everybody should watch. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of the same idea where, like, people are going off into space.
They're going to Mars, but the ship gets, like, thrown off course, and everybody kind of goes nuts.
And they die.
Yeah.
In the end.
Yeah. And Aniara is an incredibly depressing movie. It's really... But anyway, continue.
Dead men tell no tales.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but I love the theme that continues in both Aniara and this album is that these people are leaving behind or running away from this Earth that they destroyed. They have no empathy for what's happening on Earth. They're like, fuck it, we're out of here. And everybody else that's left on Earth just has to deal with it. But this allows for the opportunity for other groups that have whatever type of power to rise up. And in this album, that is the Witches, and that's exemplified by the song Rise of the Witches.
Yes, kick-ass track.
Oh, totally. Yeah. So I love the whole idea that, like, all right, the governing structure of the world have left. They've dissolved.
Yeah.
So what's left in this mess is, the ancient wisdom.
Yes.
That is coming to power finally, again, now that they're not being repressed.
Yeah. Yeah, and nature gets to be restored by those that respected it in the first place.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that's so beautiful.
Yes. Yeah, and that's the point. I love that. Right on. Because that's the other thing, too. It's like, okay, yeah, you can understand the lyrics. Not only that, you can agree with them. And that I don't get to do that too much,
yep.
In any metal album. And it's so beautiful to have an album with that kind of power.
And I think that's what makes this one of my favorite albums. Just simply because I would love if this happened,
Yes. Yeah, totally.
If suddenly, like, the power structure on Earth shifted to where, like, it's no longer capitalism and socialism and Russia and US, it's just people and witches and whatever arcane arts and ancient knowledge is actually respected and is being practiced, and the earth is allowed to heal itself. Like, all of that I am all for. Yeah,
the esoteric and the occult gets to come back, you know, in all the beautiful ways. And again, it's so rare you get an album where you're like, you're almost rooting at the end, like, fuck yes, like, yeah, this is all right. Let's have this happen already. This is, And,
yeah, I love the line. I forget which song it's in, but they're talking about the spaceship taking off, and they're like, Godspeed to all of you. Like, so long. Yeah, we won't miss you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I love the line. And I think it's in Last Night on Earth where it says, at the speed of lies. Like,
faster than the speed of lies.
That's so, that's poetry.
It is.
Yeah.
It's so brilliant. Whoever came up with that, like, hats off to you.
Yeah. Well, the other part so these guys delivered a phenomenal album, and all of this would be true regardless of what I'm about to say. But the other part that I really love about this is, in a very real sense, I made my heavy metal debut.
Of course, how could we forget?
in this album, and I already told Jason, I was like, I'm probably going to mention that.
Brian's in a metal album, you guys.
I'm in a real goddamn metal album. Like,
holy shit.
I mean, fuck record companies in one sense, but at the same time, like, the legitimacy's, okay, that's nice. No,
you were such a huge metal fan, and now you actually get to be on a freaking album.
I've been a metalhead my whole life. And I mean, when I say that, I mean, the first song I ever knew that I ever was able to really sing was Crazy Nights by Kiss. Like, I can sing the whole song since I was 6 years old. That came out, like in 87.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I because my cousins played it all the time, and I could sing his whole rap, the whole thing. So yeah, I've been this my whole life. And to finally be in a metal album is amazing. Now, all I'm doing is at the beginning a bit of a, newscast, a news report.
As you do. I mean, because you are a podcaster.
Right.
You're a radio host.
Yeah. And so, I contributed that. It was my honor. I'm not saying I did anything to make this album any better in any way. It's phenomenal, completely on its own. But I am just so honored, first and foremost, to be asked, to be on a legit metal record. But also, I mean, I got to admit, I feel so goddamn cool.
You're so giddy about it.
Oh, I was jazzed, And I mean, there was a chance it wouldn't have ended on. And I told Jason, like, look, no problem, man. Like, if it doesn't work out for you, no harm done. I was just honored to be asked. But it is so cool, to be out there. So particularly, it's track 3, The Last Night on Earth. You'll hear me right at the beginning, and longtime listeners, you're going to recognize my voice instantly. But that, oh man, I was so jazzed about it. Like, fuck yeah, not that I'm like a rock star now, at least not in metal, but it's just cool to be on a metal record.
It's a credit to your talent as well.
Thank you. Yeah. I love it. It's so great. So many people are involved. There's other voiceovers in this. And in the music videos, other great talents that are involved. I mean, there's so many great people that were brought in, legit people. And that's a beautiful thing, too. Because, I think that's the kind of people Jason surrounds himself with. And, yeah, it's an honor to be a part of this project. So, I mean, it's even better. I would have lent my voice probably to just about any metal album. But for it to be a metal album that I can really wholeheartedly, be behind, just quadruples the honor.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's really something.
I am so proud of you, and I imagine you're very proud of the work that you did for this album, and I'm proud of Icarus Witch for even putting this together. It's
amazing.
Such a wonderful creation.
Yeah. I mean, especially to do this now, I think it's incredible that, and because, to some degree, I mean, I've known Jason for a while, and I know how long this has been in process and everything. And you've heard me, and other listeners have heard me, I've been very critical of a lot of albums that have kind of come out of the pandemic, where they just don't sound right. There's something lost. There's a passion lost. There's just something missing or whatever. This is one of those albums where that is just not true. This came blasting. And I think their last album was 2018. I mean, so it's been a while. This has been in the works. But this thing just comes blasting out of the pandemic, and with honestly a great message. So I love it. Other thoughts on the album?
Give it a listen. That's really all I can say that I haven't already said.
Yeah, and again, I mean this. It's track for track. It's not because I'm involved with it. It's not because I know some of the people behind it. I'm telling you, it's a track for track album.
Yeah, it's worth purchasing.
That too. Yeah, if you want to purchase it, go for it. I got my copy on Amazon. Because I do buy MP3s when it matters. It's everywhere though. That's the other beautiful thing. Believe me, you can find it on YouTube, on Spotify, on Apple Music, probably on Deezer, on YouTube Music, on.
Take your pick.
It's everywhere. Vinyl. I think there's vinyl out there. It's everywhere. So if you want it, you got it. But definitely check it out. I will put a link in the show notes so that you can find it where it's at. But man, we were just listening to it earlier today. Yeah. I mean, this thing gets put on and gets play, baby. It's so great.
Yeah, and there's things in it that I'm I've got to ask Jason about that. What does that mean?
Right.
So there's a lot to dig into there.
Yes. Yeah, it's an album with some depth. I love it. Also, I want to give a little credit to Icarus Witch. Just does some of the best fucking cover art. I mean, I feel like a lot of bands today, they just kind of, I don't know.
It's an abstract sort of thing.
Yeah, they just toss whatever, on the album art. But man, Icarus Witch fucking delivers.
Yeah, they've got some pretty metal-looking covers.
Yeah, that's it. It's metal-looking. I dig it. I dig it.
Yeah, and they really go all in with the witch aspect.
Yes. Yeah. Well, Jason, straight up, he's a witch. It's the real deal.
He's a Wiccan.
This isn't just lip service by any means. This is the real thing.
They practice what they preach.
Exactly. I love it. So anyway, check it out. No Devil Lived On by Icarus Witch. Really, really fresh stuff. I mean, yeah, it's new metal, but man, it's metal that would have fit in right in the glory days. And I love it to death. So, all right, do we want to wrap this one up?
Yeah, let's wrap it up. I mean, we've been going for over 2.5 hours. It's just insane how much we talk.
And there's only one story. Wait, what did we even cover?
We didn't even get to half of the stuff we wanted to talk about.
That's all right.
We just have so much fun together.
It's true.
I love it, and I love you.
I love you too.
Thank you for having me on.
Oh, it's so great. I love getting to record with you. And you'll be back next week. We'll do this, folks. We'll make it happen next week. We got so many great stories that you picked out that I want to get into. And there's plenty of other things to talk about. So we'll wrap this one up, and we will see all of you on the other side.
Woo!
Testing, 1, 2, 3.
I am so omniscient that if there were two omnisciences in the universe, I would be both of them.
Ziltoid.
Ah.
Testing, 1, 2, 3, testing.
Bring me your finest cup of coffee. You have 5 Earth minutes.
Make it perfect.